bitches, fuck them bitches. Bitches, fuck them bitches. Fuck them badass bitch, and let you know I ain't do that bullshit. You get me wrong, I'm a walk in this bitch. His shit, your shit, y'all shit. Cause all I'm trying to do is keep it real and let you already know how I feel. I'm not asking, I'm demanding for respect. And if not, it's your shit, I'm gon' check. Bitch, you respect me when I come through. Looking good, I'm here with my crew. I brush you off, you flaw, who you? Trying to speak, girl, you weak. Do your thing, don't be scared. The man I got, the man you done, got the brain. The style I got, the style you know I'm on to you. Cause you's a hoe, jealous, so you know it too. Stop hating, now you old, don't be a bad shit. You that girls always worry about a bitch. Them young girls ain't gon' never have shit. That girls always worry about a bitch. Them young girls.
Hey guys, it is your favorite host, Conscious TV, coming at you with another riveting episode, okay? You guys already know what we're here to talk about, okay? This topic is a perfect segue, and I want you guys to thumbs up this video as you enter the stream. If you have not subscribed to the platform, go ahead and do so. Click your notification bell, okay, so that you can be notified of when the baddest bitch upload any and everything, okay? We're going to have a very free-flowing, honest conversation tonight. I have a special guest. This guy has been a total delight. I'm very happy that God just aligned the stars so that we could actually encounter each other in this life. And I may be following up with another guest who may be coming into the stream a little bit later on, but me and this same gender loving male, we're going to get into a conversation about the LGBT experience, our own personal experience, diagnosing some things, and we're going to put the link in the comment section in case any of you guys want to actually come on and chime in as well and talk your shit and give your experiences as well, since this is LGBT History Month for you guys who don't know, okay? The month of October is LGBT History Month, so I'll also be opening up this discussion with a civil rights activist who contributed a lot to the Black community, and he also happened to be same gender loving, okay? So go ahead and roll in, share the stream out, thumbs up this video, and I will be back in a few, okay?
Looking good, I'm here with my crew. I brush you off, you flaw, who you? Trying to speak, girl, you weak. Do your thing, don't be scared. The man I got, the man you done, got the brain. The style I got, the style you know I'm on to you. Cause you's a hoe, jealous, so you know it too. Stop hating, now you old, don't be a bad shit. Girls always worry about a bitch. Girls ain't gon' never have shit. Girls always worry about a bitch. Girl, and you know it too. You arguing with your man, fighting about me, boo. And he home, you call him up, swearing he's for me. Hey, yes, he is. The coolest and the baddest. You get the red, give your head, and you hating me. I'm looking good, representing why you hating me. Hate your man, he's a dog, and he's dogging you. I'm getting mine, you been fine on your mind, you fool. Get it right, don't be jealous, and you're plotting on me. It's your man, if you ain't wanting to be with his games and his lies. Got you jealous of me, got you one right by. Ain't nice to see you all outside, done blowed your high. Got you fucking up the shit, got you wanting to fight. Yeah, when I turn them loose, you so jealous of me. Wondering what it is I'm doing, I keep wanting to leave.
All right, you guys, welcome to the stream. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, okay? I know I just came to you guys yesterday and thought that I wasn't going to be back again, but I was inspired by the holiest of ghosts, okay, to return to the platform. I don't even do weekend discussions, but I said, you know what? It is LGBT month. I haven't did shit all week except for be on the gentleman's panel, which we also will be discussing tonight as well. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and get my LGBT appointed content out, okay? Now, there is a very infamous same gender loving man who you all may be very familiar with at this point by the name of Bayard Rustin, okay, born March 17th, okay, 1912, died August 24th of 1987. Bayard was an American leader in social movements for civil rights, socialism, nonviolence, and gay rights. Rustin worked with A. Philip Randolph on the March on Washington movement in 1941 to press for an end to racial discrimination in employment. Rustin later organized Freedom Rides and helped to organize the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to strengthen Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership in teaching King about nonviolence. He later served as an organizer for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, okay? Rustin also worked alongside Ella Baker, a co-director of the Crusade of Citizenship in 1954, and before the Montgomery bus boycott, he helped organize a group called In Friendship Amongst Baker, okay? The list goes on and on and on and on and on as it relates to Bayard, okay? And can we just give a massive shout out and send some love, and definitely rest in peace, Mr. Rustin, for all that you contributed to gay rights, all you contributed to social injustice for Black minority people. I mean, this is a same gender loving man who came full circle in his love, not only for both of his intersections as a same gender loving male and also as a Black American, okay? So for all the hoteps, listen up, niggas. We do concern ourselves with other people aside from ourselves, okay? And we're very clear about being Black first before we're anything else. Okay. Now, I'm going to bring one of my favorite guys on. Some of you guys may know him. He used to do YouTube way back in the day, okay? And he's making a comeback slowly, but for surely. So with no further ado, let me introduce Travis A. Scott. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am here. Hello, hello. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you on this quarantine night?
I am luxuriating as usual. My life
Come
is so
on,
boring.
luxuriating. My
I'm
God.
luxuriating. Yes. First of all, may I say this?
Yes.
First of all, let me thank you for allowing or asking me to be a part of your platform, because I don't do stuff like this too often. And it was almost about to be a pulling of the teeth situation tonight, but because I love you, because because I adore you and I love what you do with your platform,
Oh, thank
I
you.
decided to come on and just add what I could add, and that's gonna be that on that.
Well, the honor is really all mine. It's not too many of our own people that I mess with, but you have been definitely a exception to that rule, and you have been a blessing. And I want you to tell the people a little bit about yourself before we get into tonight's discussion, what you got going on, where you can be found, etc.
Well, my name is Travis A. Scott. Don't forget the A, because there's
Oh, and
another
might I add, I know
infamous.
you guys are. I just want to say this before you get started, Trav. I know you guys see him as bald-headed as Jill Scott in this picture, but he used to be a part of the long hair club. Now he edgeless like Tamar Braxton. Now go
I have
ahead.
plenty of edges. Don't even try that. But I just don't have the length anymore. I had locks for 12 years. I decided to let them go this year, right before Corona came around. So, yeah, I'm just growing it out. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I'm not bald headed now. Let's make that clear. I have hair.
Yes.
But anyway, like I said, I'm Travis A. Scott. I am a filmmaker, writer first. I just fell into filmmaking. I have a short film out entitled Phantoms, which is on Amazon Prime Video. If you would like to go and check it out, it's free for Prime members. Non-Prime members, I think it's $2.49 or something like that. It's 18 minutes long. I would love your support. Anything else, any place else you can find me would be at my website, www.travisascott.com. Yeah, that's where you can find me for the most part. And that's pretty much it. And yes, I did start a YouTube channel many moons ago. Like the first onslaught of YouTubers and vloggers. It was very new at the time. So we were just up here acting a fool, not knowing what we're doing. It was not like it was today. It wasn't, what's the word? It wasn't censored. It was before Google bought it. We could do what we wanted. We could play whatever music we wanted. We could say what we wanted. And then when Google came along, it sort of kind of killed that first era of YouTubers. And I chopped the deuces and left myself. So pretty cute to be back tonight with Fabian.
Okay, KK. Well, I'm going to be leaving all the Trav's information, obviously, in the description box below, so you guys can definitely catch, okay, all of his content. He's an amazing creator and artist, okay. And will you be making a debut back on YouTube? Because I know you've kind of been interested.
I don't know. Depending on how this situation goes, we will see.
The pressure is on.
Yeah, the pressure is on. So, it's on, I guess.
Okay. All right. Now I see that already Rock was hidden. I'm looking through the messages. I don't want Ready Rock hidden. Ready Rock is actually a part of the Conscious crew. So just let Ready Rock just be real. I see you on it tonight, honey, and I want you to stay on it for sure. But Ready Rock is good, okay? I only want you guys to hide and delete comments that are disrespectful, maybe towards me, or disrespectful toward the guest, and or just are like overtly, explicitly disrespectful. Other than that, you know, just let folk kind of rock out or whatever. And Ready Rock is okay right now. So first thing I want to address, okay, before me and Trav kind of get into our personal experiences as same gender loving men in this community, is I want to address the gentleman's panel. And I've kind of touched on the gentleman's panel before, but I'm just gonna lay it clean the fuck out, okay? I got a lot of heat for doing the gentleman's panel when I first came onto the gentleman's panel platform. A lot of people felt like it was a failing show, that it was a failing gig, that it was a sinking ship. You know, it was the same old, you know, hoopla, hoopla, hoopla. And because obviously my fellow panelists come from a particular sector, so a lot of my supporters didn't feel like that would be a really good look for me. I want to be very, very, very clear, for one, that I've had a great experience with the panel since I've been a part of the panel. There's nothing bad that I can say about my experience. I want to say, for two, I genuinely enjoy doing the panel. And three, I want to make it clear in terms of what my personal motive was. Obviously, I don't benefit from doing the gentleman's panel well, my platform doesn't benefit from doing the gentleman's panel. I obviously have more subscribers than all of the guys combined. So obviously there's no benefit for me in that way. Why I do the gentleman's panel is simply on principle. It's for representation. I am somebody who truly loves same gender loving people. I support same gender loving people. I support all of my intersections. I am totally in support of. It was an opportunity for me to sit with other same gender loving Black males and sit in solidarity, something that I don't see a lot as a Black same gender loving man in my own community. The Black LGBT community, and really the LGBT community, LGBTQIA community at large, is a very divided community, much like the Black community is very much so a divided community. And so as somebody who gets out here and talks a lot of shit, I never want to talk some shit that I can't walk. So I can't say we need to stand together. Gay Black men need to learn to like each other, to love each other, to support each other. But you guys never see me actively put that on display. So when I was invited initially by Captivating Christian, who has also been a long-term supporter of the platform, I was more than happy to do it. And when I kept being requested to do it, King Payne invited me back. Jay Wilson then asked me to be a permanent guest, and then he asked his audience, did they want to see me as a permanent guest? And there was a unanimous vote of absolutely hell yes, we gonna need Conscious TV on this platform. He's amazing. For me, it was without question. And so for me, doing the Gentleman's Panel is not about numbers. It's not about popularity for me. It's not about any of that. It's simply about just being able to really leave behind something for other gay Black men coming up who get to hopefully come across the Gentleman's Panel in their YouTube ship and their YouTube journey and be like, damn, there is much more to the community. And the only time you see gay men together doesn't have to be when we're kikiing, when we're dragging the fuck out of each other, when we're being messy and catty, but that gay queer men can put their spirituality on display, that we can put our talent on display, we can put our intellect on display, that we actually have opinions about the world we live in, that we understand politics and spirituality and religion and social programming, and we can stand in all these other things that the world at large has not really been able to see from the gay community. Because right now, and I'm thankful for the catalyst, but right now, America's media has kind of pimped out the LGBT community the same way that the church has, and we've only kind of been used as a pocketbook. We've been used as a accessory to entertainment. And so right now, when you see queer people in media, you see them as hairstylists, you see them as makeup artists, or you see them as the token flamboyant, friend of the show to a housewife. And so you don't get to see all the other layers of what it means to be queer, what it means to be trans, what it means to be bisexual, what it means to be pan, what it means to be any of the acronym, So the Gentleman's Panel for me, it's one small step for the gay community, but one huge step for the world at large, because it in our own way, we get to contribute to that pot of showing that we have much more going on for ourselves than what meets the eye. Now, with you being here, Mr. Trav, speaking of that, like, what are your thoughts about the world at large? How do you feel about how we've been displayed in media?
Well, speaking from the past, it's been horrible. It's been horrible. Like you said before, we have been relegated to sidekicks, to hairstylists, to stylists, to home interior designers, to the sidekick. We're never the main story, if you know what I mean. And that covers the whole gamut of everything. We're never the topic. We're always the side person, the sidekick, like I said before. But as of late, the last maybe 5 years going forward, things have been changing. I am 40, about to be 41, and I grew up in a different time. Like, the 80s were not friendly to LGBT. Like, usually when we saw gay issues or LGBT issues, it was related to HIV and AIDS, a very special episode on some sitcom, just really weird things that just didn't speak to the diaspora of LGBT. It just did not. It was not level at all. So we've complained a lot. We fought a lot. And now I'm actually seeing changes. As far as the media is concerned, in real world, it's really difficult to even see some sort of change because you don't really see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way it's being broadcast all over the world now on media, it's not the same. Like in real life, people are still acting weird. The gays are infighting. The allies are weird. It's just a lot of work that still needs to be done in the real world. Like media is taking it and running with it finally after all these years, but it's not the same in real life. There have been strides, yes, there has, but it's not good enough for me. It's not good enough. Like we should not still be fussing and fighting the government about LGBT rights. Like that's ridiculous to me. Ridiculous. But I'm hopeful. Same gender loving people are here to stay. They've never not been around. It's just not been talked about. But now a lot more visibility, a lot more acceptance, but it could be much, much, much better, especially in this country. But that's a whole other story, Davion. That's just a whole other story.
Look,
I don't even know if I want to, but it's just a whole other story.
look, flow, and talk your shit. But I agree. Like, I know. Oh, hold on. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I had unplugged my microphone accidentally. No, I completely follow. And what's interesting about what you said is that a lot of people believe that LGBT people are just around here like living their best lives because they see us on Empire and they see us on Star and they see us on RuPaul Drag Race and they're seeing us visible in Hollywood and they see the Billy Porters. And I'm like, that acceptance and that visibility and that cosign has not trickled down to the everyday lives of LGBTQIA individuals. You know, one of my now good friends, Jay Lethal, he's, I put him in a hotep community because, he's about the Black power movement, but, we've had long discussions about this. And, I was also telling him like a months back when we did a live that what y'all see in media is not the truth about what queer people are really going through at the base of the pyramid. When we look at when I look at entertainment, I see entertainment or media in Hollywood as kind of like Mount Olympus, and that world is very different from the world, obviously, that we all live in. So there are trans women who are still being brutally murdered, brutally assaulted. There are hate crimes being committed unto lesbian women, unto LGBT youth. Suicide ideation has doubled in our community since the Trump administration. You have young LGBT youth. I'm talking about elementary and middle school LGBT youth who are taking their own lives in quantifiable numbers that are really shocking and deplorable.
Absolutely.
Like over the past 4 years, I have had to read story after story after story of some parent finding their 7-year-old, their 12-year-old hung in the bedroom closet because of bullying that has gone on at school. So despite all of this hypervisibility that we see of the LGBT community, this is not a reflection of the quality of life for LGBT people who are not a part of Hollywood, who are everyday American citizens living regular lives, who are still struggling with their sexuality, who are still struggling with the condemnation of the Christian church. And on top of that, have all of the added scrutiny that comes from being within the LGBT community, which is not easy at all. The beauty standards are completely exaggerated within our community. The gay men that get worship.
What are these beauty standards? Like, what are you speaking about? What do you mean?
Well, one of those beauty standards is masculinity.
Oh, okay. Now, what is masculinity to you, Davion? Like, what do you like? What's masculinity?
Okay, masculinity for me is simply it's more about brain function. It has nothing for me. Masculinity has nothing to do with mannerisms. It has to do with being a more systematic thinker, being a more rational, logical thinker. I have more of a spiritual attitude toward the feminine principle and the masculine principle, or the divine feminine versus the divine masculine. And so the divine masculine are just literally like our scientists of the world. They are our architects of the world. Like, masculinity sees things in symmetrical shapes versus the feminine principle, which sees things in like curves, which is why there's more of a emotionalism to the feminine principle, and more of a calculated, strategic, almost intellectual component to the masculine feature. So for me, masculinity has nothing to do with a style of dress. It has nothing to do with the tone of somebody's voice or how someone presents aesthetically. But I know for the general public, everything does come down to those mannerisms and to that aesthetic. And in the gay community, I know that we don't consider anybody masculine unless they are almost trade. And I mean, almost toxic masculinity is what we consider masculine. And I'm talking about that extremity is so extreme that literally, if that masculine man even remotely can, if he can twerk, he's no longer trade, or he's no longer masculine. We call him literally a bottom, because that's how fragile our perception of masculinity is, and that's how easily of a title it is to remove, because we literally think of like the most exaggerated expression of masculinity, and that creates and this is why the download community and trade is able to exploit the community, because they literally are birthed out of this sickness that the LGBT community suffers from, and there is such an appetite for masculinity that
they can have their pick of anybody. They can have their pick because in the
because it's a
LGBT
commodity to be
community,
masculine.
it's a huge commodity, and to be feminine or femme is a huge liability sometimes, because nobody wants that. It's embarrassing. You weak ass bottom. It's just a lot of toxic stuff going on in this community. And the solution, that's the question. And that's a hard question to answer, because you can't really answer it unless you have to go do a one-by-one case, because everybody's different. Everybody's different. Everybody's not the same. Everybody doesn't see masculinity the same way. It's just a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'm hopeful, but people are going to be who they are. And I'm not quite sure that it's going to change that drastically. I'm just being realistic about it. It needs to change, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to ask you the same question you asked me. What is your personal definition of masculinity, and then what do you think the community defines masculinity as?
My personal experience, well, what I think masculine is, I grew up thinking masculine was masculine, like this real manly man with muscles, and just a man, like testosterone and this big mountain of a person, because that's what I grew up with, and that's what I was told what it was. Then when I became an adult, I started to discover, explore, and experience men on my own. And I had to decide what I thought was masculine and what I thought it was. So I think now masculine is basically what you said. It's a mindset. It's the way a man carries himself. It's really not that complicated for me at this point. How you look at life, how you live your life, how you decide how your life is gonna be, and how you go about making your life a certain way. That's what I feel like he is, a masculine, a man, whatever. But femininity is it's the same as like you just the way you think, the way you operate, the way you present yourself. I mean, it's the same.
Yeah, yeah. So what's interesting about that is the truth is masculine and feminine represent the polarity, which is really only relative to the earth plane where binary exists. But there really truly is no such thing as masculine feminine in the way that we've socialized masculinity and femininity. Like, because as you just said, and as I stated as well, masculinity is more about the way you relate to your own consciousness as an individual. We all
Yeah.
have masc and femininity. This is why women
True.
can be in men's roles and men can be in female roles, or women can have masculine attributes and men can have feminine attributes, because we all, irregardless of our sex, have access to consciousness, which is a mesh up of both masculinity and femininity. But because social constructs that exist, we create gender roles and we create the categorizing so that we can reference people and their functionality and put them into their proper places within society. But we've gotten so freaking carried away with doing that we've almost we've moved very far away from the idea that we actually, despite maybe being feminine or maybe being masculine, that it has nothing to do with our actual humanity. And
Mm.
it's now been socialized to the point that there's been a value system put on these things. So you have now a lot of cisgendered heterosexual men who of course want women to be as feminine as possible, but and so if but then if those women were to be masculine and to be in touch with their masculinity, that may actually turn off the cis
Hmm.
hetero male, the same way that if you have a gay bottom and he's dating a top, and then that top just starts to display feminine qualities, that may turn off the bottom, and vice versa. I think that that's so limiting, and I know how we've gotten here, but to I really want to talk about how that's really like deprived so many people's individuality, and it's really actually removed us being able to be valuable and be an asset to each other for more reasons of substance other than how feminine or how masculine
A lot of
we
people
are.
would file that under preference. That's the easy way to say it. That's the
Yeah.
easy way to justify it. Um, and I listen, if you get with someone, let's say he's the top and he's quote unquote masculine, and then when y'all are in the throes of your relationship, he decides to, or begins to rather, um, explore his feminine side, and his mannerisms start to change and evolve. And you said the gay bottom, it turns him off. So, but he's attracted to masculine top guys. So is he then wrong for being turned off by it, or you say that's a part of being programmed to be attracted to what you supposed like want to be attracted to? You understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, like I love these questions, and I totally get what you are saying. Yeah, I don't
Because
want. Go
it's
ahead. Mhm.
it's you know you attracted to what you're attracted to. I'm not quite sure that it's a programming going on by society and the Bible of the LGBT. Lord, don't shoot me because people going Bible LGBT.
Oh,
So it's written in the Bible of the LGBT that, oh my God, Nothing can change in the midst of a relationship. Nobody can exhibit different types of mannerisms once the relationship starts. So it just, listen, personally, when I get with someone, I'm attracted to them for certain reasons, whether it be physical, mental, emotional. Once I fall in love with that person and we in the relationship and an evolution starts, I don't see myself getting like falling out of love with that or not being attracted to it, because now that I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you. I'm not in love with your mannerisms. I'm not in love with how you choose to present yourself to. I'm in love with you, and whatever comes with you, I don't care. That's just me. Like if you start out being this macho, hyper masculine man, and then when we're together, I'm in love with you, we're married, and you decide to want to explore other sides of yourself, I don't care. I don't care. I'm in love with you. Whatever comes with you, I'm in love with you. And I'm gonna still be attracted to you. That's just that for me.
No, like
A
you.
lot of people are out the door. I didn't sign up for
Yeah,
this. I've heard it with my own ears.
yeah, I've heard
It
it
was like,
too.
Trav, such and such and such. When we got together, he was like this. And now I didn't say, I don't want no girl. Listen,
Mhm.
I cannot.
I don't want no girl climbing my back.
Right. But you in love with who you, if you are you in love with this person? Why you with this person? It's time to start doing some evaluation,
Yeah.
self-evaluation. You have to decide why you got into this relationship. Was it superficial reasons? So that's on you. You have to decide that. You can't really put all the onus on that man who's evolving and exploring himself. You just can't. That's really immature, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I think it's easier to accept people for who they are, obviously, when the love thing has happened, because like that's just the nature of love anyway. Like love is a transcendent force. So you're going to transcend all of your ego, all of your social constructs. And that's when you really show up fully as yourself, and you also green light the other person to show up fully. And there's nothing that can really stand in between that once the in love factor has happened. But going back to an earlier statement that you make about social programming, I for one know for a fact that it's social programming that defines and shapes what we think we are attracted to. A prime example of this is just look at the fashion trends over the past few decades. Look at how men were dressing in the 70s in bell bottoms and fros and high-waisted pants. And since that was the way men were being socialized aesthetically, that's what shaped women's attractiveness. You didn't know to be attracted to baggy jeans and Timberlands and hoodie because that wasn't the aesthetic. It wasn't even available to you. But because you are attracted to men, and that's the way men were presenting themselves, your attraction to men had no choice but to also accept the way that men showed up. The same way how the beauty standards for women have changed, and that has not stopped men from being attracted to women. Women in the 90s were doing everything to not have an ass. It was all about the flat assedness. It was all about looking as
Did
flat
you
as
say
possible
flat
in them jeans,
astedness?
girl. It was all
No, he
about
did
the skin.
not.
Yes, it was all about the sentimentiness, and men didn't object to this. And then when the aesthetic for women shifted in the early 2000s, and it was about the video vixen aesthetic and the voluptuousness and the big hip and the fat ass and the big breasted, men just moved along. And when men were wearing jerry curls in the 80s, and they were doing the in living color, a colorful pattern outfits in the 90s, and the box cuts, like, and we've seen society move along in its attraction for each other, because we are like a lot of people. That's how interesting the programming is that we are so influenced by media. We're so influenced by how something is presented to us that we don't even realize that we are that we are being shaped, that our attraction and the way we relate to our attraction for each other is highly due to variables outside of us. It's not just a matter of masculinity. Another prime example of that is just looking at other ethnic groups where they aren't very strong, hyper masculine standards. A really good community of that is the white community. White men get to be whoever they want. They get to be punk rock, paint their fingernails black, be as gothic or as long-haired or as different as they want to be, and they still have access to white women. And white women have no choice but to accept the way that European men decide to show up, because that's just the way that the masculinity for white men is presented to the white female community. And so
listen, I have a question.
uh-huh.
You're speaking about heterosexual programming. Now let's talk about homosexual homosexual
Oh,
programming.
I was thinking my way around that. I'm very clear.
Okay, I'm just saying, because
I'm very clear about
them
the
heteros,
topic.
you know. Okay, go ahead. Because I'm like, this is not related.
I would say all that in response to the issue of even the way that we're informed, even the way that our attraction is informed as queer men. Now, what I feel happens in the same gender loving community is oftentimes, for one, we adopt. See, it's interesting, and this is why this conversation comes full circle, because even the way that a lot of same gender loving relationships happen between lesbian women, happen between trans women and men, happen between gay men. There's a lot of heteronormative pattern behavior. So you have top, bottom, you have the giver and the receiver. My last serious relationship was with a man who completely identified with those heteronormative gender roles. Like, he was literally the top nigga. And because I am versatile, but my aesthetic presents kind of more androgynous, even though I swing in between both masculine and feminine, he wanted to put me in a very hyper feminine category. But because that is a part of me, I was willing to be that, because I have that in me. But it also felt so restrictive of me, because I'm just
That's what I was going to ask. You wanted to do that, or you feel like that was a compromise?
It was a compromise. Yeah, well, it was a compromise. I mean, but a compromise is something that you want to do ultimately. But is it something that I would have preferred? No, I would have preferred to be with a man who could be complete in his masculinity, but in a way that was very separate from what masculinity is defined as, so that he could be fluid in just his beingness, and he could almost transcend this idea of masculinity. A prime example of that, and I love using the heterosexual community because it really helps to paint this picture for same gender loving people. There's a really big sexual act that I'm glad that happens, because it makes for great talking points when it comes to this. In the white community, there's a big category of pegging. Do you know what pegging is?
Absolutely.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, it's men who like for their woman to put on a strap on and penetrate them during sex. Now, this absolutely destroys the binary idea. And I love that it does, because it speaks really to the fluid nature of what it just means to be human and being, rather than male or female. And in that way, I feel like the white community is a bit more progressive in terms of how they understand themselves than maybe the Black community, in which we have strong binary standards. There's male, there's female, there's colors and behaviors and activities that are isolated to male and female, and that bleeding over to the same gender loving community. So for me, like, I would not have I would have not had a problem remaining a strict bottom in my last relationship. But I felt like it could have came full circle if he was willing to also just honor my masculinity. You know, and my and
did you guys ever have a discussion about?
Huh?
Did you guys have a discussion about that or no?
I mean, it was it wasn't a discussion. It was just like a given. It was just like, you know, like when y'all know what y'all sign up for with each other. But it's like I didn't make it my business to necessarily challenge anything. But there was like discussions over the course of our relationship. We was together for, you know, like 5+ years. You know, we've been together forever. So of course these things came up, but I never pressed the issue because I already knew where he was. He was not a compromising person in that way, and he literally wanted to be the man. Like, and because he put me in the feminine category, it meant that my leadership in this relationship can make him feel inadequate. That's something that actually led to the breakdown of our relationship this time around this year. Because when we got back together this year, first of all, I've always been the breadwinner in their relationship. That wasn't a problem for him when his back was up against the wall. But when his back wasn't up against the wall, he wanted me to fall all the way back, because for him, me being the breadwinner to him meant that I had power. And me having power meant that I was infringing upon his masculinity, which he attributes to power. He assigns himself and expects to be in the power position because he's the masculine one. So anytime that anytime that I could do something that he felt like he should be doing as a man, but that I was obviously capable of having as a man, because I'm also a fucking man at the end of the day, he couldn't get with that. That fucked with his ego the same way that powerful Black women fuck with the egos of men who don't have their shit together. Black women speak about this gap and this issue in their own dating experience when they are the breadwinners and their man and his fragile ass masculinity is suffering and crumbling away because a man, you know, because those men don't have the identity outside of the way they've been defined as men. So these standards are in fact really hurting all of our men, not just straight Black men, but they're also hurting gay Black men in relationships, because you have niggas who identify so strongly, both with being a bottom and with being a top, that they're just not able to just simply fucking be. Just simply fucking be. And I don't want to get too preachy, so I'll let you jump in here and say some things.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
You know, I've asked a couple questions. I'm not trying to be Oprah or anything, but would you do that again?
Do what? Like the relationship?
That type of relationship again?
Oh no, 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 ma'am. I only was willing to do that relationship because I literally loved him, and I am a very sacrificial person by nature. So adding the love component there, he was the exception to my rule. But now moving on with my life, no, that's not something that I could ever do. I could be with another. I don't even know. No, I'm gonna be honest. I could even be with another full top. Like, but you know, but it doesn't. But it's also not just about sexuality. Okay. It's just about being with a man who, when I say like a man can be a top. Like I could be with a top, but that top would need to be in touch with his femininity as well. And I don't mean in touch with his femininity like he needs to like Beyonce and he needs to know how to split and he needs to know how to lay a lace wig. No, what I mean by in touch with his femininity is I need him to just be comfortable mentally and emotionally.
Right. Don't run from it when it comes up.
And emotionally available. Right. I need him to have emotional range and emotional depth. I need him to not shun away from those things because he's a man and he interprets his masculinity as emotionless and detachment, the way that a lot of unfortunately Black men define masculinity, which is why Black men operate so robotically and so detached in relationships. And the same issues that gay men have with men are the same issues that women have with their men. It's this idea of men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and you know, the polarizing difference between the sexes, and then it becomes the battle of the sexes. And so I no, so I couldn't. But I also would like to. If I could have it my way, I would just be with a versatile. He doesn't have to be fully versatile. He could be a versatile top, or hell, he could be a versatile bottom. But I just need
And it's versatile.
versatility. You know, somebody who's just in touch, because all versatility means to me is in touch. I don't care whether you're in touch sexually with your femininity or masculinity, or in touch intellectually, or whatever the case may be with your masculine femininity or femininity. I just need the versatility to be there, because what that means is that there's a lot of possibility for full fluidity, which eventually I would love us both to be able to experience with each other. It's just fluidness. Yes. I don't want to have to know that I got to get my back blown out every night we have sex. I don't want to know also every day that something is going on that is only going to be me laying my head on your shoulders and me being willing to cry, or us having an intimate moment and me be the only one wearing my heart on my sleeve. I want to also know what it feels like to have you bleed out on me. I want to know what it feels like to have you be able to have a special moment with me and let your emotions come up and not to be ashamed of that. I want us both to share I want us both to be equal in our emotional availability, because it's going to absolutely take our intimacy to the highest of potential that it has. So that requires total emotional availability on both ends. And I know that I deserve that. So I would never go back to just a straight top. No.
This is why I think it's important for LGBT folks to not adopt hetero ways of doing things, because we're not hetero. Like, what works for heterosexual people doesn't necessarily work for homosexual people. Like, it's either going to be 2 men or 2 women, or whatever the equation might speak to. But 2 men can't be, it's not hetero. Like, you can't go into a gay relationship between 2 men thinking it's going to be like how you see it on TV between a man and a woman, because 2 men, 2 sets of testosterone, 2 sets of 9 times out of 10 alpha situations. So you're going to have to decide how it works between the 2 of you. There is no model. I just don't believe that there is a model. I think that it's a relationship by relationship situation. Please don't ever go into anything like that thinking that, well, we such and such does it this. No, 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 no. I don't know such and such. I don't necessarily care about how they run their relationship. It's you and me. These are our rules. This is how we're going to run our relationship. So we never compare, because it's not going to work. Now, it's okay, in my opinion, to admire how people run their relationships, or gay men or gay women run their relationships. You can take bits and pieces from anything, but to base the foundation of your relationship on how someone else's relationship goes, very dangerous, in my opinion. So it's very important, like I said, this heteronormative thing, that the roles that the gays try to adopt, that's dangerous. It's set up for failure, in my opinion. And like I said, it's between you and whoever you decide to be in a relationship with, and however many makes that relationship up. Because we can't leave out the polyamorous folks. We can't leave them out, because they're just as important as the one-on-ones. Like, I'm never gonna. I used to have strong opinions about that.
Yeah, I know. I had to break you in. I had to buck you down to the ground.
You, along with other situations like that came about. So I'm open to the idea of it. I understand it. I will never judge it. I will never judge it, because people love who they judge. They love who they love. and they do what they do. As long as you have your rules and do how you want to do it. Period.
Yes. You have to know
Cooking,
thyself and then be true to thyself.
cooking with Nathan says he likes the concept of gender roles. That's nice, Nathan.
Well, I wanted to speak to that. There's nothing like inherently wrong with gender roles because, like, once again, these categories should exist for the sense, like, they should exist for the simple purpose of reference and practicality. Like, obviously, if you are a woman in a relationship, you get married, and you are having the children, obviously it just makes more sense for the man to be the consistent worker in the relationship. Or if you are the breadwinner and y'all have a family and it makes sense for one of y'all to stay home to cut the cost economically, or to be the domestic one, because the other one is out, getting the bacon, and you could be home cooking that bacon that they're out fetching. Whether that's the man at home being a stay-at-home dad, or it's the woman being at home, like, those roles are fine. The categories are fine. But the issue becomes when we define ourselves by the roles rather than the roles only having purely superficial value. For instance, even though I was the breadwinner I've been a breadwinner in all of my relationships. Not that the niggas I've been with were broke, but I've always just been doing better than the man that I have been with. But for me, just making the money it didn't mean my word was the final word, or that it meant I had power. Even if I could make decisions about the money because I'm making the money, I never made any decisions without my partner's input, because that's what a relationship is about. But the issue with gender roles, especially when we start to define ourselves based upon our roles, is we think that there's a certain privilege and power that comes with whatever role we play, and then we think that we become the gatekeeper in a relationship that's shared between two people, where there should be no gatekeepers. It takes the ship is successfully sailing because of what you both contribute to the relationship, irregardless of who the fuck does what, irregardless who's cooking and cleaning and who the hell is in business meetings all day long. That everything you guys do and create should be together and not be about, well, I make the money, so I'll make all the decisions as it relates to the money. Like, that makes no sense. And then you wonder why 70% of marriages in this country are ending in divorce, and more than half of the reason is financial.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice if we could go into a relationship and decide what our strengths are as individuals, and then do those strengths, regardless of what we do for a living, what we don't do for a living. For instance, if the man that goes to work sits in the boardroom, makes all the money, if he's a better cook and wants to cook every day or twice a week or however many days he wants to, then he should come home from his job and cook if he wants to. If he's the stronger cook and that's what he likes to do, cook. That don't mean you're, the lesser of the two because you cook and clean. It just depends on what your strengths
Right.
are, and whatever you decide your strengths are, I could
But
be.
but isn't it so crazy that people literally do feel comfortable? Like, even with me being raised up in a family of like all men, men literally feel like it's not their job to cook and clean.
Absolutely. Yes.
Literally, no, like literally during the holidays each
No,
year,
yes.
it's always the women who get up
Absolutely.
and clean the kitchen after the family is done eating Thanksgiving. The men are just sitting around being the entitled ones, and the women do all of the domestic work. And because
But
I don't think that that's
that's
fair,
generational. That's real generational,
and
especially if you're in the
it's
South, and it's
toxic as
real.
fuck. It's toxic
It's
as fuck.
it's extremely toxic. But that's just what those people in those days are comfortable with. I don't. like that. But I mean, you think those people gonna change?
Well, I don't think that they're going to change, but I'm hoping that we are learning about the error of their
Yeah,
ways so that
that's the
we
only
can
way.
break those
That's the only way you can
patterns
break it.
of toxicity
That's
within
the
our
only way you
own
can break
lives.
it.
But there are people like, but this is the issue too. So like, I'm going to take this thing around the corner because I feel like this inability to be comfortable with oneself as a male is what also contributes to the down low community, because you have a lot of straight men who, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think that a lot of the men who are down, well, I'm not gonna say a lot. I don't think that all the men who are down low and participate in down low culture are even necessarily into men. But it's interesting to me when a lot of those men who present very masculinely in their heterosexuality are willing to be down low and then play the submissive role in their down low life. They're getting plugged and pegged by the guy, or they're sleeping with a trans woman and she's the top to him. And what's interesting to me about this is it goes back to the pegging conversation. How many of those men would actually be willing to just stay at home with their wives and their girlfriends if there was a certain level of openness sexually that people could partake in together without all of, like with all of the stigmatization? Because
Absolutely.
imagine if you are a woman and your man says, I like to get my ass ate, or I like, like, I want you to dominate me tonight. Like, I like being penetrated. Like, and a man's G spot is connected, to his prostate. And so a lot of men really can have a very huge orgasm when their prostate is
Right.
being massaged. And so, but see, a woman, because of the binary that we live in, and this applies to bottoms. I've heard a lot of bottoms say, if my nigga asks me to fuck him, I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Like,
Yes,
I don't want to
because
be, I don't want to, like, I don't want to be in no I don't want to be in no masculine position. I don't want to, like, penetrate my man. And I'm just like, but let's sit in how ridiculous we sound when we reduce contact with another human being, or a attraction to a human being based upon the way that we define a mannerism or even a sexual act.
right.
A sexual act is just a sexual act.
It is.
It has nothing to do with manhood or womanhood or femininity or anything, because a woman would feel just as much like being in a masculine position will compromise her femininity as much as maybe a man would feel like his masculinity is compromised by being in a submissive position. And this is where the gender role shit gets out of control, because we aren't just performing these roles, they are a part of our actual identity. And that's
Let
where
let
we
let's
become disconnected from ourselves
let's
at.
just say, just be honest. If you would just go into relationships being honest in the beginning and letting the person know what you want, what your boundaries are, what you don't like, and give them the option whether or not they want to go forward with it, fine. I mean, it would be much easier, but like for the woman, if the man came to her on a date one night and they were talking about sexual things, like what do you like in bed? What do you like? And if he says to her he likes to be pegged by his woman, what do you think she's gonna say?
Well, she's going to say the same thing that Miss Kimberly just said in the comment section, Oh, and Miss Kim is beautiful too. Miss Kim says, I would be out too because I wouldn't or couldn't penetrate a man. I wouldn't judge. I just feel that I can't please you. And sex is a huge part of a
And
relationship.
that's okay. So that
Yeah.
man who likes to be pegged ain't for you. So there's no need for judgment. There's no need for weird looks and stares. Just move on and go to somebody who you comfortable with and what you're comfortable like. Just find someone that's compatible with you. We make it so hard to be in certain kinds of like if it's not for you, fine. Don't go in it thinking that you're going to be able to change his mind too, because that's going to be a miss. Like, oh, I'm fine enough. Like, he's a catch on paper, but he just likes to get pegged and likes to be dominated. I can change him. Like, I'll change that. That ain't nothing we can worry about. We're going to worry about. That's going to change once we get married. And then when it doesn't, you stuck married to him and you got to peg him and you don't want to because he told you in the beginning. This goes for gay boys too. He told you, because I know gay boys who try to change other gay boys. Like when the boy says, well, I'm verse, I like to take dick too. And the bottom is like, well, no, he ain't gonna, we just gonna make this work. I'll make him forget that he wants to take dick. And then you get in the relationship, and guess what? He still wants to take dick. He either asks you to bring somebody else in, or he cheats on you, or he dumps you. Those are the three things. Because you can't change somebody's preferences. You can't change someone's desires. Like
I challenge that.
In the beginning, be honest. If it's not for you and it don't match and it's not compatible, move on to someone else. It's really not rocket science, in my opinion.
Okay, but my question to you is, so you really believe that preferences are a absolute?
No, I don't think that.
But you just
People,
said that you think that like you can't change somebody's preferences.
I say desires. I mean, that's
Or
not the same
desires.
thing.
I mean, that's where
No.
preferences come from, I guess, are desires.
Well, I don't know. Like in the beginning, you sit up there and you say, I'm gonna do it anyway because he's not gonna change. I'm gonna make it change. You can't determine that. Like, what if it never changes? It might, but what if it never does? And you going into this relationship not 100% fully convinced that it's gonna work, at least sexually. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
I get it. We
That's
have a
what.
guest coming on. Ready Rock, who was in the comment section, is now backstage, and we want to let him give his thoughts on tonight's topics. Are you ready for Ready Rock, Trav?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's welcome Ready Rock to the program. How are thou, Ready Rock?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Hello, Ready.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
It's,
So what's going on? I know that you was in the comment section letting have. So what do you want to contribute to the topic tonight?
okay, so what I want to contribute, okay, to the chat is that we were talking about gender normatives, and I really believe that gender normatives have really played. Wait,
You probably got to turn us down like in the background so you can hear like straight from your device.
yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, so what I
Are you there? Hello.
Mr. Rock.
I think that Mr. Rock might have some connection issues, possibly.
Might be his mic or something, because I see the little things operating as if he's talking. But
Yeah. Can you hear us, Ready Rock?
hello.
Yes, I was. Are you okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I'm sorry. I had to put on my headphones.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry. So,
Okay.
so we were talking about gender norm. Okay, I'm here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, it's my mic.
I think there's a delay. I think you should point.
Yes. So, what I did want to talk about is gender normatives, and I do feel like it played a big part on basically the way we operate our relationships. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. It's a delay, I think, on your end though. Like you hear us in delayed time, but we can hear you. Okay, so we're gonna let Ready Rock figure out his situation with his audio so that we don't have to spend too much time. But Ready Rock, if you can hear me, just turn us off on any other device because like you're probably listening to us from a separate device, which is why there is a delay. So just listen to us through the device that you actually are on StreamYard with,
Okay.
okay?
Can't see.
And
Gee.
just type into the chat like when you're ready to come back on, and I'll bring you guys back on. Now, Mark Pinegar said people's preferences change all the time, at least mine have. I used to be so adamantly opposed to trying certain things in the bedroom until I tried them, and I'm sorry, but sex is only one thing. What do you think about that, Trav?
Preferences are. I agree. Preferences do change. They can change. Um, I agree. I mean, there's nothing to really explain. Preferences can change. We're human beings. We evolve. Because mine definitely have changed. Like they've changed since I was 20. So, um, yeah, it's possible.
Jeffrey, bring your ass on here, Mr. Artist Jeffrey. You hit the link, sir, and come on into this discussion. I want to hear from you, sir. Yes, so that speaks to my point that preferences are interchangeable, Trav. But you know, my issue is that, and I was just talking to a good friend about preferences, and I was telling him how because we have an ego, we mostly listen to the information from our ego about ourselves. And we're so convinced that we know ourselves so much, but yet we also are a people who constantly attests to growth and change. And what you were interested in in your 20s changed in your 30s and changed in your 40s. And we also see like these conversion experiences where maybe a event or a set of circumstances changed who we thought we were, either for the better and or for the worse. And so what that communicates to me is that the information on the surface about ourselves is simply superficial, that we actually don't, we are probably in all actuality more of a blank canvas than all of we are more of a blank canvas than a people who are come with anything pre-installed. I mean, honestly, I think a big proof to that is being a human being within a society. You are informed about who God is through a religious system. You are informed by respectability politics within that family, within that community. Everything about the world has some educational system that you're meant to derive your sense of identity from. And if we were so who we were, a lot of us would not be able to be conditioned or indoctrinated, but we are able to be because our identities are so fragile and interchangeable. And that's my issue with this, with people who stick so strongly to their preferences. I'm like, if you would actually just realize that if you just let go and see what happened, like you might actually be surprised at who you think you are and who you think you're not. Or
those people have those preferences because they've tried it and know that that's not what they want, which is why their preference is what their preference is, just as some people.
Jeffrey D, if you also have some comments, you are more than welcome to join. Anybody in the comment section who wants to add into this discussion is welcome to come on. Now, can you say that piece again, Travis, like the last piece?
Yes, I said a lot of the people who have such strong preferences, well, I'm not going to say a lot because I don't know everybody, but some have those preferences because they've tried the thing that they wanted to try and they know they don't want to try it again, which is why they have their preference.
But see, that's another one of my issues.
How's that an issue?
Yes, I have a lot of issues. See, one of my other issues is that, people rely too much on the experience to tell them whether they like it or not, but they don't realize that there's a science to living. Like, it's not just about being willing to do something. It's also about really being available when you go to do it. Because in your mind, you could be closed off to experience, but you're willing, you give your body a yes, but you give your heart a no. So yeah, your body is here doing the thing, and you're relying on whatever happens to determine whether you walk away with a I like that or I don't like that. But that's not what's going to conclude you in the matter. You have to really make yourself emotionally available, like not even just emotionally, but make yourself mentally and make your body available. So like, for instance, you might have a man who says, I don't want my ass ate. And then maybe his woman or his same-sex partner, since this is LGBT theme show, his partner, say you with a top and you want to eat your man cakes. And your man's like, I ain't with that cake eating shit. I don't want my ass ate. No. But then you know, pressure him enough, he comes around to the idea. So now,
who don't like their ass ate?
Look, you would be surprised.
Oh my God!
Let me tell you,
funny.
my ex was, when I say my ex was a strict top. There was nothing going. You couldn't even touch his ass, even if you weren't sticking anything in it, even if you weren't putting your finger in it. He didn't even. You couldn't even look at the area. Like, that's how strongly, you know, he identified with that top shit. And there's lots of straight men who don't want their damn ass. Hold on, somebody said they're trying to send a cash app. Something is stopping it.
Handle that, please.
Hi, Kimberly Brown. Legit.
I can see what you're saying.
Carry on, yeah, Travis. I'm gonna handle this real quick. You carry on real quick.
Yes, I can see what you're saying, because how do you know you don't like it unless you give yourself fully to it? I'm saying that I know people personally who have done things and they went in with their spirits open to receive everything that was to be received, and they just didn't like it. And so they stuck to their guns, they stuck to their preferences, and they're happy with that. I don't believe just, just because you tried and don't like it, that don't mean, and that doesn't mean that you're not giving yourself to it. Like, if it's a gay guy and he wants to try hetero sex for the first time just to see what it is, and he's really into it and decides he doesn't like it, he don't like it. That's his preference. No biggie.
Okay, I'm back. But my point is like, I'm just making a point that there's a science to really like getting the most out of an experience. And just going back to the example that I was using, like, so let's say that you finally pressure that man to getting his ass ate. So then he's letting you do this to him, but he's all tense. His ass is in his head, like, oh my God, can this just get the shit over with? Like, he's not even present. And so he walks away, of
He's
course,
not
being like,
present because
yeah,
he
that
don't
ain't my
like it.
thing. I ain't
That's
into that
why he's
shit.
not present. He's not present because he don't like that shit.
No, but I ain't finished. Because then maybe a few years later, for whatever reason, maybe in that same relationship, or he's in a different situation, maybe he's at a different place in his life,
Mm-hmm.
somehow, some way, that experience comes up again. And in this particular situation, he done got his ass turned out. Now he
Yeah.
loves getting his cakes ate.
See, it can happen. And it can't happen. It just depends. It's the toss up. It can happen.
Yeah, but and my point is that it can only be a genuine toss up if you go in open. That's the only way to really get to the bottom line of your bottom line. So don't just try something. Don't just don't just present your body if you can present your mind and your heart too. If you're going to say, okay, I'm going to go into this experience, go in mind, body, and soul. If you're going in compartmentalized, of course, you're going to walk away being like, nah, that ain't me. When really, in fact, it could be a whole lot of you. But if you just would have brought the rest of you into the damn experience and really showed the hell up, then things might be quite goddamn different. Quite
Right.
different. And I've seen it happen. I've had those experiences myself. I've been with it in my relationships because I'm naturally a fluid person. Of course, I've pushed and pressured my partners to do things that they thought wasn't them. And then after an experience, it was totally them. And I'm just like, yeah, of course. Like, what you think you know about yourself is surface level. If you never take the time to just explore and just let the social constructs go, let the identity that has been manufactured for you go, like, be willing to see beyond the way you've been programmed and conditioned to be. Just like a lot of people, for instance, when it comes to religion, a lot of Christians never even realized that they never chose Christianity for themselves. They inherited it and they just carried it around out of habit. A lot of people don't even realize that, wait, they never thought to actually question whether this was something that they really wanted for themselves. And they were never even offered anything else on the plate. They were never
Mm-hmm.
offered the Quran. They were never offered Buddhism. They
Nothing.
were never
Right.
offered paganism. And on top of the majority identifying with Christianity, it was just so reinforced and it was just so commonplace that people just went along with it and they made it work for themselves, and they, accepted a relationship to the faith without even realizing that they never really had a chance to really know what they wanted to believe and what they would have believed had they been given the opportunity to choose for
Right.
themselves. And that just speaks to my issue of, like, we think we know ourselves so much, like, at the same time we have concepts like you are a product of your environment. That speaks to the issue of social programming, that that a huge part, that most of your being is being informed by what set of circumstances you're born into, what you've witnessed and seen in other people. A lot of men have learned to be the type of men they are from the type of men in their life coming up. They learned from their uncles, they learned from their fathers. The same thing from women. A lot of women learned how to be the type of women they are from other women. Like, so we are always being informed by things external to ourselves. We don't really know who the fuck we are of our own choice. We're not choosing to be as critical about our existence and assume more independent responsibility for our
That's
identity by
that's
saying,
what
you know
that's
what,
what I was
I'm gonna
gonna
pull
say.
back on all the motherfucking labels and I'm gonna start clean and go into the world completely new and see what the fuck I organically gravitate toward. And I'm going to challenge everything I think that I know. I'm going to try this and try that and open my mind and see who is really there behind the veil. And if it is the person that's on the surface, that person will be there still, if that's who you truly are. But I guarantee you, because most people who have gone down that road have not came back the way they started on that path.
Yes. Yes, yeah. I think, well, with the religion thing, um, it would be nice if parental figures would give their children a safe space to explore other options and other pathways. And I know that sounds scary for a lot of parents to be like, I'm not going to just turn my child loose and let him or her just discover and dabble in this and dabble in that. And it's not Christian. I said, in my mind, I'm like, well, you might be creating a well-rounded human. Like, what if your little human that you were responsible for 18 years on this earth doesn't want to believe that Jesus was the Messiah and died for his or her sins? What if your little human decides that he or she wants to discover what the Quran is, or Buddha, or Hindu, or anything that's outside of the Christianity sphere? What are you gonna do? Because sometimes it's not for everybody. Sometimes, everybody doesn't believe that. That's all I'm saying. Safe spaces are gorgeous. And that's in every realm of situation, relationships, Christianity, work, anything. A safe space is gorgeous because that's where freedom is, in my opinion. Like, even in a relationship, it's a safe space here. We can talk about any and everything we need to talk about, and we not gonna break up. Like, this is a safe space. Just be honest. I ain't gonna get mad. Not really, but I am, but not really. Just tell me what you think about this and what we're going through today. Let's
Yeah.
talk. Communication, safe spaces fixes everything, in my opinion.
Oh, well, I think that you just hit on something really powerful, because in a recent commentary, I was talking about conscious parenting, and people wanted me to do a separate video. And I know that that will be going down an epic rabbit hole, but I just want to touch on it here briefly. Yeah, like what you were just saying is that even for a lot of people having children, most people go into thinking about having a family from the context of creating a child in their own image. And so you never even think about approaching bringing a soul into this world as, I'm going to help this soul to understand themselves versus program them the way that
Mm-hmm.
I think they should
Right.
be. My personal approach to parenting is to instill the principles.
Mm-hmm.
The principles allow for the child to have to have a navigation system on their organic
Yeah.
experience of
It's
self-discovery.
foundational. It's
Yeah, like I'm
foundational.
not going to choose the identity for my child. I'm not going to expect my child to be straight. I'm not going to expect my child to be cisgendered. For all I know, we're having a trans child. For all I know, we're having a lesbian child. For all I know, we're having a trans man. Like, I don't know who the hell God is sending through the womb. Like, that is something that is, unfortunately, that has so nothing to do with us, and it's a shame how much we make it about us. And
Mm-hmm.
then souls who coming in here with some fundamental attributes to their identity then get met with, they get met with the agendas on their life by the parental role or by the
And
governing society.
may I say,
Yes.
that's, in my opinion, this might be a little controversial. When parents do that, that is abusive, in my opinion. Like, when you try to mold that child without that child having the opportunity to think thoughts, explore ideas,
Mm-hmm.
explore ideals, but you're feeding something into this person and they're just like, okay, I mean, I guess, and there's no true reverence for it. It's like, okay, this is what I've always been taught. This is what I've always been taught is right. This is what it's going to be, I guess. That's not helpful, in my opinion. And I ain't trying to, I'm not trying to tell a parent what to do because I'm not a parent. I'm just saying, for me, if that would have been presented to me that way, me to be free, I would have been freer. I would have been more open to a lot of situations earlier than I would have, because I had to learn this stuff on my own. I had to really late. I had to learn and teach myself how to be open and how to be a well-rounded human and how to be empathetic and how to be I had to teach myself these things because of certain ways and I was, brought up in this world as a child. So I believe that children should have freedom to pick and choose certain things. I'm not saying allow the child to just do what it wants.
Yeah.
Like Davion said, principles.
Mhm.
Instill principles, foundational things that this child can add on to, build its own house, build its own mansion. That's not for you to do. Your job is to give it foundation. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
that's all. Yeah, I totally agree, and that was a beautiful expounding upon like what I said because I
Dr.
totally.
Chris Lord, no, I'm not a proponent of hedonism. I'm just
I was
saying.
going to get to Doctor. Doc is a very goddamn. It's a very starch conservative. Like
She
Doc is
said, in my house, it's going to be Jesus Christ. When you go out that
Jesus
door,
Christ, honey.
that sounded just like
Right, my way or the highway, honey. I
that's
pay
like
the
my aunt.
bill. I make the rules. Period. To the period.
I think your mic went out.
I don't know how the hell I got kicked out of my own stream.
Dr. Chris
But
did.
I wanted to respond to Ayo and then to Dr. Chris because you was already touching on Dr. Chris. Let me see if I can find Ayo. Okay, so Ayo's comment was, I think this is a little bit more of a problem for the Black community. I want to get your opinion on that too, Trav. I would say that this honestly is a issue for it's an American culture issue. Honestly, like this happens in all other ethnic groups in this country too. I think that the white community is a bit more open to self-actualization within their children, which is why oftentimes as within the Black community, it's been a running joke how much white children get away in white households. Like they seem to have a bit more access to speaking their minds, something that's not something that's not as common in Black households. They seem to have this inherent agency over themselves. They know what their limits are. They know that this is their room, mom. Get the hell out. Knock on my door before you come in. Like they have a more sense of independence, and there's maybe even a bit more fluidity within the way that they can present themselves, because we know that like white kids be running around with colored hair, the punk rock aesthetic. I mean, they get to really kind of do them. That isn't as common in the Black community, but nonetheless,
Oh,
that's an issue that's that
I would,
all communities, all parents, most parents are raising children unconsciously. But what would you say to that,
you are
Trav?
right. I'm going to tend to go with ALQ's comment because I think in the Black community, it's a problem. I mean, I know it is for other. I'm just speaking for my community right now because it's in the news now. I don't know if you've heard about this, but Jaden and Willow Smith came out and said the Black community shunned them
Okay,
and
yeah,
made fun
yeah,
of
like
them
yeah,
because of how they were
we
raised, a little
watched
bit
them
more
shun
free.
them. Yeah,
And I'm like, that's an issue in our
absolutely.
community. Like when you give your children opportunities to learn and explore their sexuality, who they are as a person, whether it be how they present themselves or what they choose to do in their life, it's judgment, especially in the Black community. I'm just gonna have to say it because we were we're not native to this country. Let's just be clear. Like
And white people not
Africa,
either.
I
Just to add that bit.
don't even want to talk no more. But
Go ahead.
but we just celebrated Christopher Columbus Day as well. My God. But it's a huge issue in the community, the African American community, because it's like you get the other mothers and the other fathers judge other parents like Will and Jada because they allow their children to be free and explore life, not under such a harsh hand, especially in the South, because that ain't gonna, that's not, no. Big Mama told us that this is how it's supposed to be, and that's just how it is. And it's just a mess. Like, you can't allow your children to just explore without getting judged for it. And the child, it's just a mess. It's a lot of reform that needs to go on, not just in DC, but in these communities, because it's a lot of mess going on.
No. Like, absolutely. Like, the biggest issue that the Black community had with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith as it relates to their children is that level of agency given to children was foreign to the Black community, because as you just said, Black children don't have that type of agency. Like, we are raised in households to do what we're told. It's not about the way we feel. Our parents tell us, bitch, I don't give a damn about how you feel. You ain't got no feelings as far as I'm concerned. I mean, so there is no damn agency. So
there's no agency at all.
So the Black community was offended. They were offended by Jada and Will Smith's approach to parenting, which was, we're not going to define the journey for our children. We're going to join them on their journey, because it is their journey. And it goes back to that, as Dr. Chris said, should we just permit hedonism? No, because that's where the principle laying. I am going to raise you to be a stable, grounded, emotionally in touch individual who also uses the power of their mind in terms of who you are sexually, in terms of who you are aesthetically, in terms of what religion resonates with you, in terms of who you go choose as a lover, in terms of what career path you choose to go on. That is all you. I'm just going to lay the foundation as your parent for you to be smart, for you to be confident,
respect authority.
What self-assurance is, and I'm going to just instill the principles of confidence and solidarity within you, and I'm going to be mindful as a parent to stay out of the rest of it. I'm only going to give you the foundation of principles: how to be happy, how to not compromise yourself, standing in your truth, giving you understanding about how to access and discover your truth, and then support you in doing that. Too many parents are leaving their children, and queer people know this more than anybody, because we get abandoned altogether. Once we come out, if we're coming out within a community and a family that's definitely unloving and doesn't want to embrace that, we are ultimately left on our own. And I think a lot of people don't understand the loneliness that a lot of LGBTQIA people feel, because something, and this goes over heterosexual people heads, which is why we call it privilege, because they take things that are second nature to them for granted. Like something as simple as you being a cis hetero woman, being able to participate at the family table in a conversation around your love life. That's something that an LGBTQIA person doesn't have access to in a family that's unaccepting. Not being able to just share with your own people who you are, what your love language is, to share your personal life, to be able to divulge that and be supported in that. That, like, I can't tell you how often before I came out to my family, like, just what it felt like to just be on the outside of those conversations. Everybody is sitting around with their lover. Everybody's sitting around with their husband, they wives. People are able to talk about, you know, their marriage, or watching my
Oh,
cousins bring their girlfriends to Thanksgiving, and you know, me being happy for everybody else, but me not ever feeling comfortable,
right.
you know, also, and knowing that there were going to be certain people that were going to be uncomfortable if I brought my partner, you know, to the shindig, and that they wouldn't be afforded the same embrace if had I been bringing a woman to the shindig. And just, you know, things on just that micro level are devastating for LGBT people.
It is. I have I have come to the thought that I'm tired. Well, I've been had this thought, but I'm tired of people pleasing. Basically, I'm just gonna do what I want. Because I used to always take other people's feelings into consideration first regarding me and my being gay, or me want to bring my man around family or other types of functions where people might not be comfortable. It used to be their feelings before my own, and that's abusive as well. So that's nothing that I really care about anymore. If I want to come out and I want to talk about who I'm with or what I do, and I want to bring him with me, I'm bringing him. Now, how you decide to deal with it, I can't manage that. That ain't my problem. I don't care. If I want to bring my man to Thanksgiving in a couple weeks, I'm bringing him. Now, most of my family ain't gonna like it, but guess what? That's not my problem. I want some turkey and I want something to eat. And so does my man. And it's Thanksgiving and it's family. Most of y'all love me. Most of y'all accept me, but it's a small amount of y'all that be looking side-eyed and crazy when I walk my gay ass in the room. I can't manage that. I don't, I'm not going to manage it. You need to figure out how to navigate that on your own. So I'm taking back that from them, and they didn't even know they had it like that. That's the issue. Take it
Yeah.
back before you give it to them. I don't care. Like, I'm not a people pleaser anymore. That's over. I can't bring my man to Thanksgiving or a family function because of how you must be out your damn mind at this point. That's just not gonna work with me. It's not gonna work.
Ooh, baby. Let me tell you, my grandmama is a strong, conservative, Orthodox Christian woman. She does not understand homosexuality. When I first came out to her, because she was one of the first people that I came out to, because I was very close to my grandmother. And we had a discussion in her bedroom, and she said, well, Davion, you know, I don't understand sexuality. I mean, I don't understand homosexuality. Um, but you're my grandson. And yeah, I know what the Bible says, but I'ma always love you. I'ma always love you. There would never be anything that could keep me from loving you. And, you know, I support you as my grandson, and I just want you to know that I love you no matter what. And it was so, my grandmother means the world first of all, I've had two amazing grandmothers. My grandmother on my father's side and my grandma on my mother's side. My grandma on my father's side passed away back in the 90s. She was, I mean, a walking angel. But my grandmother on my mother's side is still living. And it was interesting because I knew that my grandma was just a devoted Christian. I decided when I came out to her that I would let her come to me. So even though I had came out and she had given me, you know, her love and her affirmation, I still would never initiated discussions about my love life or about anything. But then when I got married, I felt my grandmother, she would call me and be like, "Hey, how you and your partner do?" And my wig would be blown. I would be like, "The fuck?" I said, "Grandma, you must be watching that damn Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith on TV, girl. Like, what in
Red
the
table.
fuck? And it wasn't, and she continued to do it. She would be like when the holidays would come around, she would be like, well, you know, if your partner there, bring them on out. I'd be like, what? Like, what are you talking about, Grandma? Where
That's
are you
amazing.
getting the shit from? Like, who? And my grandma is like the last person I would have ever expected to, because of my grandma has been in the church her whole life. She's a deaconess. My grandfather is a deacon. I come from this whole religious Christian thing, and my grandmother just opened up the floodgates. And the fact that I didn't have to coerce her, I didn't have to force anything on her, it just really exposed and revealed the depth of my grandmother's love for me. And that touched me so much. So, yeah, but see, I also know that in that way I'm privileged. I know how many same gender loving people don't have that.
That's great.
Don't have
Now, I never had a coming out story because there was nothing to come out of. I just
it.
gay.
Right. Just
Like, there's nothing. I mean, it was
born on the porch, not even near a closet.
yeah. Not at all. They knew, like they knew, but it was a very unspoken thing. I'm not gonna say we spoke about it ever. Like, never spoke about it until recently. But as growing up as a child, no, it was never discussed. But it was clearly a fact, and they knew it. But I don't have no coming out story. My grandmother was a very important person to me because she raised me. She passed away when I was 8, but she still has a huge impact on me because she would tell me things about myself that I didn't know about myself. Like a lot of things, not just my being different, quote unquote, but other things, spiritual things. So that lady is always going to hold a special place in my heart because of how intuitive she was, how much she knew who I was before I even knew who I was. Before she equipped me with a lot of stuff before she left. I almost think that she knew she wasn't going to be here forever, so she wanted to just give me what I needed before she left, and I really believe that. So yeah, I had a gorgeous relationship with my grandmother on my dad's side. So yeah, grandmothers love, grandmothers know, and a lot of grandmothers just wait and see. Is he gonna say it? When is he gonna come out of? Should I ask him? But that's just what grandmothers do. I love a grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading Mark's comment about the alienation that he's felt, you know, growing up in a family that wasn't really receptive and open. And that unfortunately is the general and common experience of lots of, you know, LGBT folk, which is why the suicide and the depression and the drug culture is really big in the LGBT community, because there's a lot of woundedness and there's a lot of hurt and there's a huge pain body that queer people are carrying around. And so the drugs and the promiscuity, all of those things are just a way to escape and a way to experience interconnectedness. Oftentimes the drugs and the sex is a way to plug in to some sense of ecstasy, some sense of true interconnectedness, or even an escape from the trauma and of loneliness, of the abuse. And these things are psychologically abusive. I know that a lot of families in America don't feel like, you know, there's they pledge so much to their religion that they don't think anything of the way that they're treating the LGBT community within their own families or within their own church. But this is psychological abuse. I just want to let you know. And using religion as a way to justify the emotional and psychological abuse of any person and of any religion is absolutely it's inhumane, and it also couldn't be the furthest from what the gospels are actually really communicating. Not that I Not that we even need a damn book to justify um simple kindness to each other. Not that we even need a damn book or a religious system to justify why it makes sense to just treat people the way that you want to be treated. But this is psychological abuse. And so if you find yourself as a believer, or just find yourself as a person who has queer people in proximity to you, that may be your child, that may be a relative, that may be a church member, that may be a coworker, whatever the case may be, just understand that. Let me take my time through this thought. I want you to talk. I need to work through what I'm about to say to make sure that I speak clearly. Trav.
I'm going to say this. It's gay people, black gay people, because I'm a black gay man, and I'm going to speak from my experience and a lot of my friends and family's experience. I feel like it's unfair. Well, it is unfair. And this is not a whining session. It's unfair that black gay people have to spend so much of their time, so many years, so many decades trying to prove to people that they are worthy of being on the same earth as they are. I find that ludicrous. I'm tired of the wasted time. Like, why do I always have to explain to you that I'm not an abomination? Why do I always have to fight you to try to convince you that I'm the same as you? All this wasted time and these wasted years, I wish that I can go back if there was an opportunity and I wanted to go back to a 5 years old, knowing what I know now. There would never be a time where I would try to convince or rebut what people say about me because I'm gay, or try to convince them that I'm the same and that I'm okay, that everything is, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. It's such a waste of time and energy to always try to convince people that you're worthy and that you are just as valid for being on this earth they are. It's such a waste. I don't recommend people do that now because it's such a waste. Just live your life, be who you are. It's hard. It's really hard living an open life and being just open with who you are. Not just for being gay, just being who you are and you risking showing who you are to the world. That's hard as hell. But do it anyway because that's your right. And you're just as valid as anybody else. Your presence is just as valid as anybody else's. And don't prove yourself. You don't have to prove yourself to anybody. It's ridiculous at this point. Like, it's ridiculous. Daviana, you okay?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
And yeah, I agree. And that's the burden. And that's a burden that a lot of LGBT people are not ready for. They don't know that that's what they're going to have to come into the world and transcend, which is this value around culture and family, even if it's a toxic one. And the task that we are given is honestly a task that really the world is given, but it's just that LGBT people are in more of a position because they're kind of met with the ultimate resistance out of the gate. And so they're put in that position to really transcend settling for a superficial relationship to the world around them. And that can be heartbreaking because for a long time, you spend your time more so in isolation and being misunderstood, and also going through the process of being outcasted from your community, being mistreated by your peers at school, being mistreated by your family members, by your church body, suffering through the emotional turmoil. I mean, it's epic.
It's a lot.
It's beyond a lot. It's just it's
I
insane.
feel myself. I feel a weep in my spirit because it was very hard having to go through all that. And it's for what? Like, what are you doing? I'm living my life just like you living yours. Why are you acting like this? What is the big damn deal? Like, my God, like you would think that we around here eating babies, chopping them up and stewing them. Like, God dang, like, come on, people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot to go
Did I
through.
really say stewing babies? Lord have mercy.
Yeah, you
Sorry,
did.
y'all.
You totally did.
Y'all know what I meant. But it's just very difficult. And that's when you really know you're strong. If you really make it on the other side, out on the other side, you really know you're a strong person. Because that stuff is difficult to deal with. You better get that coin.
I'm being texted by friend. No, it's a lot, but this is also why I feel a lot of the gay. I feel like this is also why there's a lot of defensiveness and cattiness and egotism within the gay community, because a lot of our community comes from a lot of hurt and pain, and that's what they know. And a lot of the territorialism and jealousy comes from gay men. See, gay men were never raised to be counted in a space, which is why when gay men are in spaces, it's a race for the top spot, because most gay men come from a place of unacceptance. They come from communities where they didn't have a place, they didn't have a seat. And so now that a seat is available, of course, it becomes a battle to be seen, a battle to be the head homosexual in charge. And I feel like also a lot of the materialism of gay people comes out of a lack of being separated from God at an early age due to the church doctrine, which told you that you was an abomination, that you was disgusting, that God didn't love you, that you would go to hell as a result. And so being castrated spiritually, being emasculated psychologically by the doctrine of the church, I think that this mutated like a lot of LGBT people's sense of identity. And so but LGBT people had to create an identity out of something. So of course it got to be their accolade or their looks, because you can't walk around without nothing. So I feel like the lesser of the two evils for queer people was God don't love me, my family don't love me, but guess what? I'll make that up by being incredibly successful and well-dressed and beautiful and attractive. And then what you get is people who don't know that even that is a false identity that provides a false sense of security, but that's the road that they go down until they have a inevitable ego death that then brings them back to the point of realizing that what they felt to do was truly love themselves. And of course they were bound to not be able to not successfully do that, because that was never shown to them, that was never mentored to them, that was never demonstrated to them. They come from a society that had a doctrine that put them on the outskirts from the very jump. How were gay people supposed to know to truly love themselves? How were they supposed to know? They couldn't have an identity in God. They couldn't have access to God's love. The church kept them from that. They couldn't have access to mom's love. The church inspired the family to outcast and shun their queer family members. And so, of course, you either are going to be met with suicide and having no value over your life, or you're going to have a super ego as a way to compensate for a lack of a substance of identity. So now you have queer people going toe to toe and head to head all the time over men, over spaces, over turf and territory, and black queer men treat each other awful. Awful.
You're telling the truth. Are we gonna say this is macro, or we're gonna say micro? Or we're just gonna say some.
Okay.
I'm asking you
Oh, in terms of what?
what you just said, that black queer people treat each other horribly.
I'm gonna say macro.
Think so?
Yeah, I mean, nearly every black gay person that I know feels a way toward the black gay community. I mean, every panel I see, panels I'm not on, panels outside of myself, when I'm listening to other queer people that I don't know personally, like thanks to technology and the internet, we can hear people's opinions and feelings, from all walks of life, and it seems to be a damn near unanimous vote that there's a lot. I mean, and it's not even. I mean, it's really not just the black. I mean, it's just the gay community at large.
You would
Generally
think.
acknowledge that there's a lot of separation, which is something that we also communicate to straight people that, yeah, there's an acronym and there's, all this LGBT pride, but that's also not indicative of the togetherness. This is a very broken community.
I mean, you would think that a community that's so marginalized would kind of try to stick together and not
You would.
tear each other down
Yeah.
so badly. But
But it also makes sense, right, that we wouldn't, because hurt people a lot of times end up doing what?
hurting people.
Hurting other people.
That's true.
It's a learned
There's no.
behavior.
It's almost. There's really not really an answer, or something like. There's not an answer to it. There's nothing. How can it be fixed? Like we mentioned this in the beginning of the broadcast, and I said I don't see how. Like, how is it going to change? I don't. What's the solution? Because we can talk about it all day long. Can give examples as to how we're treating each other in the community. Even on this platform, I've seen some stuff, but what's the solution? Is there a solution? An attainable solution. There's always a solution, but what do we do? I don't know. Like, I ask myself that question all the time.
Mhm.
And I'm talking about attainable, because people do have egos, like you said, a lot of them. And it's just hard to encourage people to change behaviors and thought processes when they're so inflated with their egos. It's just really difficult. So
And that
I
ego
don't
is
even
really
know.
a pain body in all actuality.
The what?
I said that ego is really a pain body. It's really a
Yes.
pain body. It's a glorious pain body. It's a very decorated pain body, but it's a pain body nonetheless. It's a trauma body.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's sad, but
But the question is, I mean, the answer is we have to we have to spread the gospel and the good news of self-love to our community. And we as same gender loving men can't just say to other same gender loving men or say to the LGBT community at large, we can't just say love yourself. We've also have to be mindful about building love and relationship to each other. So the sense of community is birthed out of the doctrine of self-love, because obviously people have to be supported, people have to have purpose, people have to be sponsored in order to do that. So, and that goes back to my initial point about why I do the gentleman's panel, because I can't just say we need to stick together. I gotta do the sticking too. I can't just say we gotta stick together, but then you never see me with gay men. You never see me galvanizing with LGBT people. You never see me myself practice the same. And I hold every community to task for this. I hold, like, even I was just doing a video like a few weeks ago about bigger content creators paying it forward to smaller content creators. Like, take your brothers with you. Like, if you're making it over the hill, reach back for other people. And I had gave Tasha K her roses, for taking Storm and Roll with her. She reached back for someone else. And I know people have a lot to say about Tasha K, but it wasn't about, you know, the way you feel about her as a person. I was just literally giving her roses in terms of, I love seeing Black people get their Harriet Tubman on and come back for each other. I love seeing minority people come back for each other. Don't be a crab in a barrel ass bitch and only make it for yourself in whatever capacity you make it. If you go out and you find self-love for yourself, somehow you stumble upon that, come back into your community and tell them what you found. Tell them what you did. Tell them where you went. And if some of them need your hand to get there, come back for them and take them on the Underground Railroad passage to that and find them. Like, don't leave your people alone wherever your people are and whoever your people are. Like, come back and give them that. And there's not enough of that happening. And so when we ask, what do we need? We need people who are going to say, we got to love each other. And then we need people to be willing to literally demonstrate that by coming back for their people and painting the path and showing the path and walking the path. So it got to be something we talk about, but it got to be something we walk about too.
You better preach, Davion.
Look, this is my shit. This is my area of life here. Like, if I can't do nothing else, this is my lane. This is my lane.
And I know it's your lane because I feel the passion in your speech. I feel it. So
Shondo. Come on, Holy Ghost. I know you I know you a nasty piece of agnostic over there, but come on, Holy Ghost. Sound like the Holy Ghost trying to knock on the door of the agnostic heart.
A little something.
Okay.
But absolutely, you're correct. You're correct. That's a solution, and that's an easy thing that you can do. Gotta think micro, because
and the micro is, it starts with it. I know that we put a lot of pressure on society at large, but honestly, I feel like in the age of Aquarius, where we're seeing our government and our society collapse, we're seeing the collapse is happening for the purpose of us finally taking responsibility for our personal contribution and not putting it in the hands of a larger agency or a larger governing body, because I feel like we've become dependent upon the government to do something and the society at large to do something and the church to do something. But the question is, we can all make our world better by just individually being better people, being more mindful people, being more neighborly persons. And so if you can no longer trust in the government and no longer trust in the church, you can still go out and create and participate and contribute to the world in a productive way by just being a grounded person yourself and sharing that with everybody you come into contact with and live in proximity to.
Okay. I'm here for it. Are y'all here for it, chat? I'm here for
it. Shut up.
I'm very much so here for that.
No, I'm just saying, you said the word micro, and and I think that we have
to start where you are.
Yeah.
Like
it starts with you. I know that it's cliche and we hear it all the time, but it really does start with each of us. It starts on an individual level. That's how change starts in the world.
That did sound cliche, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple, redundant truth, but it's also the least executed. So it's like
when I tell you, I get so tired of seeing people fuss and fight about stupid stuff, from the smallest stuff in real life to YouTube to the news to stuff at work. Like y'all like to fight. Like, I'm a very non-confrontational person. I don't like all the extraness. Like, what are you talking about? Can we just discuss this like two adults without all of this extra stuff and just get it handled? Like, all this, I'm just not, let's just handle this because this is just way too much for me. I have a nap today.
A nap.
I have a nap. Let's just, yes, it starts with us.
It
Starts
starts
with
with
us.
each of us. Like when I see people, honestly, like I'm in public, when I and I'm gonna paint the picture of what it looks like for you to practice mindfulness on a micro level. When you see people who are different come into a space, maybe you're in Walmart grocery shopping and you see somebody very unique also shopping. Maybe they're dressed very eccentrically, they look very different, they stand out. And if you pay attention to the way that your ego initially will respond to that person, you might even do a second, you might even be shocked to see them. Like you might be like what the fuck? Soon as you are mindful of that, what you've just communicated to your own body is that everybody else more than likely in the store probably is having that same jarring experience of what the fuck. But you also know that even though you might be mature enough to be like, what the fuck is that? That there also might be people in this space with this person who might not be mature enough to just keep that to themselves. They might put the what the fuck on display by mocking the person or by saying something aloud, by doing something to let the person know that they are not received in the space that they're in. So then what I do when I see someone different in a space, whether it's in a Walmart, a gas station, and we in public, whatever it is, I make sure to be very mindful of being kind to that person directly. Even if it means just greeting them and saying hello with a genuine smile on my face, even paying them a compliment, because I know that I feel like it is my duty to compensate for for how I know they're being generally treated. So I'm mindful because I know that you're probably getting laughed at, you're probably getting mocked. So I'm going to make sure for you that I am extra kind. I'm going to treat you with extra care because I'm probably the only person throughout this day in your travel that is probably going to be nice to you because the rest of society is ignorant and stupid and close-minded as fuck. I literally remember distinctively one time years ago, I was in a grocery store and this guy came into the store with full-on goth. Like he was a black guy. He was in full-on goth makeup. I mean, he looked like the devil. I mean, piercings everywhere. He had like pale. I mean, he just looked really scary. And this was his aesthetic. And I looked at everybody else's reaction to him in the store, and everybody was just like, "Girl, what the?" And when we end up coming down the same aisle, and when we came down the aisle, I said, "Sir, I love your creativity, dude. Like, I'm living for your creativity. Matter of fact, I need some of your badassness myself. Like, I just want to encourage you to continue to be confident as fuck because you got it. You got it, my nigga. Like, I need more of that." And he laughed and he told me, "Thank you." And we had some small talk and we went on about our business. And I felt good about giving him that.
That's great.
I knew that God only knows what else he was going to experience in that store alone, yet alone wherever the hell else he was going to have to be throughout
And
the day.
he clearly experienced it because even though we may not, we have thoughts about people who just look different and we walk past them. Like, energy is real.
It
You
is.
feel it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you say anything or not. You feel that energy and we can feel it.
Yeah.
You walk past the person and your whole body tenses up as if you're going to be attacked or you just don't
Yeah.
understand. That's hurtful.
Yeah, it is.
But once you go through it a lot, he probably has built up some sort of defense at this point because it's happened so often. He just has to do what he has to do. That's unfortunate. I'm glad
Yeah.
you did that. That was really nice.
No, I do it to everybody. As soon as I can discern who is like the odd person in the space, whether it's the most quietest introverted person who I can tell is nervous, they're shy, they don't feel as comfortable, because these things are obviously observable. Like they don't take really rocket science to figure
Right.
out who doesn't feel comfortable or who's different. And so when I discern those people in any given space that I'm in, like I those are the people that I target my kindness to, like, because a lot of people, like, it was interesting. Like, I go back to the Columbine story. I'm sure that you guys all know about the infamous Columbine school shooting back in the 90s. Those guys, they overlooked killing some of the students because some of those students were nice to them.
Right.
Were nice to them. And I just want to say that some people are only holding on to this life. Some people are only not putting a rope around their neck, only not popping a fucking bottle full of pills because they remember the kindness demonstrated in some human beings towards them. And that kindness gives them light at the end of their tunnel. So every day they're choosing to find the strength to go on because they're hoping that they get to see more of that humanity in other people in their walking life. A story that broke my fucking heart, that really made me just practice kindness to the utmost, was I followed this trans woman on Facebook, and I didn't even know that we were friends, but she happened to go live one day, and I was scrolling through my news feed, and I came across her video, and I was just listening to her live while I was in here cooking or doing something, and she was just getting dressed, you know, going about her day, and she was just talking about her experience of a trans woman, and she said, you know, she says, every day, you guys, I have to get up and I have to prepare myself psychologically to go outside and to commute to work and back, because I know that from the time I step outside of my house, and she was a post-op trans woman. She had no surgeries, no nothing. She said she knows from the time she leaves her house to commute on the train, because she lives in New York, to go to work, that she's going to be called everything from a faggot, a freak, that people are going to say disgusting things to her, that people are going to harass her, that people are going to shun her, that people are going to treat her like a walking disease. And this is reflected in their body language. This is reflected in their posture.
Right.
It literally sent chills through me to just imagine that somebody has to do the absolute most work emotionally and mentally daily just to go about their regular life.
Right.
That you have to almost have a Dr. Phil session with yourself daily just to make it home and back safely because of the shit that society is putting you through. And I've never been through that gravity of rejection, but I've experienced as a gay man that micro homophobic aggressive behavior, even in the tattoo shop that I get my tattoos done at. My guy who does my tattoos works at a shop, and the owner of the shop would never speak to me. He would never speak to me. He would never greet me. We would never have conversation. And I knew it was because of my orientation, because I've been in like hyper-masculine spaces where a homophobic black man might not be willing to verbally disrespect you, but he would disrespect you with his body language, by not speaking, by making sure he's not in physical proximity to you. And plenty of queer people can attest to this, that homophobia is not just verbal, it's in the body too.
Absolutely.
So what is your experience of that? Like, can you talk to us about when you have seen straight men tense up, or
I
be
have
able
a
to
I have a
tell a lot about their
story.
body language?
I have a story, honey. I was 8. I will never forget this because it's ingrained on my spirit because of how affecting it was. My aunt, like I said, I was raised by my grandmother. She died, so my aunt took over, which is fine. That's my aunt. I call her my second mother. Anyway, she had a boyfriend, and this was his first time coming over to the house to meet us. And I'm telling y'all, I was gay. So he came in, and I was just being who I am, just who I am. And he immediately had a reaction to me. So I was sitting on the sofa, and he sat beside me. This was the reaction.
Mhm.
And somebody, I don't know who it was, somebody said, "Oh, he gay." I'm 8 now. I'm 8.
Wow.
Somebody says he gay, and my aunt's new boyfriend looked at me with his eyes got so big, like he had seen a ghost, and he looked at me with the most disgusting look, and he just got up and sat somewhere else. Let me tell you something that affected me for a long time because I was like, I have that much control over a grown man. I just remember going in my room and getting my tablet and I wrote. I wrote a story about it because I've been writing forever. I wrote a story about it. I was devastated because I'm like, I made a grown man get up from his seat and move somewhere else because I'm gay. So that's when I started to realize that, hmm, this might be an interesting little life I got going on going forward because if I can make a grown man get up from his seat and move to another seat because I'm gay, this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
So I never forgot it. I think about it all the time. Like I had a conversation with him about it a few years ago.
Yeah.
He apologized, but I was like,
Yeah.
sometimes apologies don't work because I mean that was over 30 years ago, but
Yeah.
what are you apologizing for now? Like it happened. It's nothing you can do to make it better.
I mean, it
I
was
just
worth it was worth him doing it because he was letting you know that he knew that that was ignorant, and maybe he was saying I was ignorant at that time, and
I'll allow that. But when he said it, I was like, oh, okay. Because it was so long ago, it had happened, and the effects of it were deep. So when he said it, I didn't feel any relief. I mean, it's not like I pushed it away. It just didn't mean nothing to me. It didn't mean anything. I mean, I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I was just looking like, oh, okay, that was
yeah,
that. But I never forgot that. And even after that, stuff like that would happen. Of course, the barbershop, like, you know how toxic that shit is.
yeah,
Um,
hypermasculine spaces, the barbershop,
um,
tattoo shop,
even at church,
the church, the club,
everywhere. It was just
bars. I mean,
horrible.
yeah,
It could be
the
horrible
club,
and very unsafe places. You could
yeah,
feel very unsafe at a lot of places
yeah,
growing up
yeah,
a homosexual child.
yeah. And that's where that mindfulness has to come in at. I have had to understanding where homophobia and transphobia comes from is why I've had to really kind of soften my heart again toward the heterosexual community, which for some time it was very hardened, but I became compassionate when I understood that a part of being privileged as a heterosexual person is you're taught to be this way. And I can understand that it has to be a journey to not be this way because you inherit this privilege, the same way that white people don't necessarily have anything to do with the system they inherit that benefits them. They're born into it. And so, of course, you are stupid and ignorant on certain issues. Of course, you don't understand that not everybody can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And of course, you are far removed because of the position that you're in societally, and heterosexuals are in, they have a level of privilege as well, and it's so second nature to them that of course you don't think anything of your treatment toward gays because everything around you reinforces that treatment, from the Christian scriptures to the church to the culture. The culture is deeply anti-gay, no homo, hyper masculine. Straight men constantly go out of their way, whether it's in their music, whether it's in their rhetoric, aka the hoteps, to let queer people know that they're not accepted. So and so that anti-ness is just reinforced from every angle. And so it is something that straight people have to unteach themselves, just like unlearning anti-blackness or unlearning anti-self-love. It's a process of healing that has to occur on both fronts. The LGBTQIA community has to learn to love itself and undo all that's been projected onto them. And the community that projected that onto them also has to unlearn the privilege that justifies to them the way that they are and the way that they respond and treat that community. And so there has to be a lot of unlearning and unpacking and relearning that happens on both ends.
Very much so. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And the load can be light when we do it together. If we do it together, the workload can be fun and it can be expedited if we were to do it together. And it's going to take doing it together, you know?
That's the only way, because especially in the LGBT community, because we're so separated. We're so separated. If we just came together and did what we had to do, it would be beautiful. Like the flag is a rainbow. Do you feel rainbowy?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much separation, and like you said, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to start with showing love, instead of saying it. Show, don't tell. That's one of my mentors, writing mentors. She would always preach about showing when she's writing. Show it, don't tell it. It's more interesting when you show it instead of just telling it.
Absolutely.
And that's how I agree. I love you. Like, I speak to the allies too. I'm like,
got to.
The allies love to say, I support. I'm saying this, like, I'm glad you support, but how? Like, tell me what you do to support. You can say it all day long. I'm an ally. I love you guys. But what are you doing? Like, how are you showing us support? Like, what are you doing? Can I just let us know how you support us? You can say you are, but how?
Yeah.
That's all.
Well,
I love our allies. I mean, I love the allies. Don't get me wrong, but jumping and shouting and cheering, baby. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, let me go into the chat because there's people coming in, but I don't. StreamYard really, it filters out comments. So they be comments that'll show up like in the regular YouTube stream that won't show up in the YouTube. I mean, that won't show up in the StreamYard comments section. I was looking at Mark comments. White people may be going into it, but I'll read his comment. But no, I was going to say, yeah, like there are two types of allies. There's an ally who is an ally in theory, and then there's the actual ally. You sound like you're talking about the ally in theory, like the ally.
Theory, absolutely.
As you say, they say it, but it's not really exemplified in any other area, and they probably are just as unconscious in their actual life as it relates to the community as the average person is. And being an ally, it simply just means that you openly love this community, and it means that you're willing to do that when you see the anti-behavior, when you are a part of conversations and spaces where you see the abusive rhetoric, and you're willing to make it known that queer people deserve respect, even if you disagree with who they are, even if you disagree with their identity, and that you openly, that you also keep these people in your actual space. Like, if you are an ally to the community, it means that you have queer friends. It means that you have queer people in your circle, that you bring the community that you support in. It can't just be like it can be just a superficial allyship, but a genuine allyshiping is genuine relationship building to the community that you're standing up for. That's why I love the fuck out of my straight friends. Them niggas are so supportive of just me as a person that I don't even think they even see sexuality. Them niggas will spend a night and sleep in my bed and the whole nine and are completely comfortable. Like walking around, getting dressed in front of me and the whole nine. And
getting dressed naked.
buckety, butt. I done seen the balls, the dicks, and everything.
Oh my
And
God, pain and
but
all
see,
sorts of
they
things.
were my first experience of what a real straight man was my brother, my younger brother. I don't know where my younger brother. I don't know why my younger brother never ever made an issue out of my sexuality, because it's very strange, because my brother is a crime mob type of nigga. I mean, my brother is like a dude. He's like a man's man. He's very much so a man's man. But growing up, he saw me go through every phase. He saw me become as gay as I have become. And my brother just never, even when we argue, my sexuality just never was a thing for him. And when he would have friends over, because he also hang with a lot of men type of men, my brother just he was never embarrassed to have me as his brother. He never, I mean, it was just, and I didn't know where he got it from. I could only attribute it to the fact that he just loved me. He just fucking loved me. But he also was my first introduction to what sound sexuality is. Because if you are indeed straight, you have no reason to be uncomfortable, unless either you have demonized queer community to such a point that you literally see them as predatorial and you see them as a real threat, or you're struggling with some part of yourself that, because of the indoctrination, you can't bring yourself to accept. And having queer people in your space is too close to home, because it reminds you of a part of yourself that you don't want nothing to deal with or to do with. It's either one of those two things. You either have self-imagined queer people to be dangerous, and that's why you are homophobic, or you're struggling with your own sense of homophobia. But my younger brother was the first example of what it looked like when both of those things are absent. You just really get to be in full relationship. And so now I really question homophobic people, especially homophobic men, because I'm just like, what part of you are you dealing with? Because
it's
all that you
usually
think got nothing to do with gay people, honey. That got to do with the gay that lives on in you, the bi that lives on in you, the curiosity that lives on in you, the transness that lives on in you.
Talk about it. Because 9 times out of 10, after they went in on you, called you all types of whatevers, they either running up on you on that level, you know what kind of level, the DL level, or messaging you, or acting all curious. After all that you put me through, all you had to do was just admit that you was feeling me.
That's it, honey. Just tell me
all you had to do. Like you going through all of this masculine machismo BS that don't mean nothing. Well, all you should have done was,
just be like a bitch. It's okay.
Right.
You didn't have to do all that.
That's what little children do at recess on the playground. You mess with the one you like. But yes, that's happened to me a lot of times. A lot. But it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's really funny sometimes too, but
it is. It is. I want to read.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I wanted to read Mark's reply because I can't see it in StreamYard, but I see it on YouTube. Mark says, "White people may be born into it, but we certainly have eyes to see and brains to think. What we lack is the balls to change it." Well, that's a very honest critique, Mark, of your community. And but that also speaks to me and Travis's point about the allyship is really important, because it also sometimes when the critiques come from outside of the community, it can fall on deaf ears, because communities can just get defensive about being critiqued by other communities. That's why a lot of times the critiques sometimes have to come from within the community. So as a white male who's aware that your people just don't have the balls to change it, that's where your allyship work can start, is helping to wake up your own community, encouraging them to have the balls and to have the heart, and holding like our own people accountable. And that is really all about task. Like as a gay male, it's my responsibility to hold the queer community to standard. As a black male, it's my job to hold the black community to task. And I understand that when critiques come from outside of us, like when straight people critique of the gay community, the natural response is to be on defense, even if those critiques are valid, which is why those critiques have to come from within the community, because there's no stake in the fight when it comes from your own. And it's like, okay, I really got to listen to this, because this is really about something you're communicating to me. You don't have an agenda. You're not something other than me trying to change me or trying to critique me superficially. So having that in-house confrontation and holding our own tribe members accountable, yeah, like there's a place for that. And yeah, and that allyship is just important to dismantling the system from the inside out. Just like the issue of racism.
Right.
Black people won't be able to dismantle racism alone. That's going to take white allyship to also help to dismantle systematic oppression and the way that racism has been weaponized against Black minorities in terms of business, in terms of economy, in terms of resources that should be allocated toward the community, etc. That we're going to need, obviously, people who look like our enemies in order to protect us and aid us against
that's a huge
yeah.
way. That's a huge way that's huge, because they're the one, to be honest, the racism is their problem. They have to figure out a way to dismantle it. Like you have to go into the system and do it that way, or at least start to do it that way. Because it's really difficult for us to do it, because the marching and the fighting and all of that stuff does not seem to be as effective as literally going into them into the government and lobbying and rallying for us. Like somebody needs to help. Allies, that's what they're for.
Yeah.
So again, I ask you, how are you, my ally, how are you supporting?
Yeah. Well, you know what? A lot of times we tell people to just help, but we never really paint the picture. So I'm going to once again just give a prime example of something on a micro level that can be an example of what it looks like on a micro level, like what you can do personally. So say that you're a white person, right? And you live in a community and you mostly see most of the restaurants, most of the jobs, most of your coworkers are white. You don't see a lot of minority people on staff with you. So let's say that you know that minority people live in a community and minority people are even trying to apply for a lot of the jobs that you see them never get. And let's say that you're a white person and you know the pillow talk conversations that go on within the workplace or within the neighborhood about Black people. So you know that racism is fueling why you don't see a lot of Black people in the occupations or within the same positions that you're in. So let's say that you're on a job. If you get the opportunity to be supervisor, and maybe this can be your motivation to strive to be a hiring manager or to be a lead on a job. If you get in that position, it means that you aspire toward a position that gives you power, enough power and leeway so that you can be the one making the decisions, and then you make the decision to hire minority people in order to break up that pattern of racism or white allegiance, and you share the resources you have with other communities by you yourself hiring the people that you never see hired, giving that opportunity to the people you never see get that opportunity. And once again, this is where that micro sense of responsibility is just so important, because once again, we have gotten into the habit of relying on bigger corporations and the government to move mountains. But there are things that we can literally be doing on a micro level that can make a difference in terms of spreading that love, empowering and building community. And we could be doing more individually to shake shit up on a ground level, at a grassroots level amongst each other and for each other. So if we have good white allies who understand that Black people are seriously being systemically oppressed, and the data makes that completely objective at that point, it's not really a matter of belief. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a myth. These things can be proven and are proven. It means that this can just be something that you add to your plight as someone that wants to see healing in the world, by just being a white man or white woman who will just make space for Black people in the space that you have access to. If the government won't do nothing, it doesn't mean that you can't. So you just open the space in whatever way you can. If you can hire a Black person, hire a Black person. If you could give that scholarship or that grant money to a Black family or a Black community or whatever, it means that you do that. It just means that whatever you have access to, you share that.
I totally agree. Like, start where you are. There's an opportunity, offer it. Offer it. And a lot of times, because I work in corporate, they get a lot of pushback from the higher ups about who to hire. Like, if it's a Black person and the CEO or whoever is higher up or one of the VPs is like, well, they'll probably come up and say, this candidate is better, and they end up being white. We clearly know why you think that the candidate is better. So it's stuff like that that could make that ally, it can make it hard for that ally. It can make it very hard, because we all know how it works.
Yeah.
In corporate, especially corporate, racist corporate companies. It works that way. So you got to be really, really strategic. And I think it's worth it. If you really, really about that life, it's really worth it.
Yeah. And we got to support our allies supporting us, because it takes a lot to be an ally, and allies also take a lot of hits as well, doing the taboo thing, which is to support the other side, or breaking up the pattern by being like, even my grandmother experienced some resistance from like one of my aunts who's like she's very much so a religious bigot. And for a while, she took up an attitude with just how open my grandma was toward letting me do whatever the hell I wanted to do as it relates to bringing my man around, etc., and blah, blah, blah. But my grandma stood her ground. So oftentimes our freedom fighters and our allies, they also make sacrifices by doing the right thing. And so we have to honor each other and protect each other, and allies, have to protect their interests, and we have to protect our allies, because we all making this thing happen together. And I have a lot of respect for people who become aware of their privilege and work in contrast of that privilege by sharing their power and their resource with other people. And I do understand like the fight to wake up in a system that keeps telling you that you don't have to listen to those people, you don't have to talk to those people, you don't have to honor their plight, you don't have to like everything in your world is communicating that those people are not worth hearing, and for you to wake up anyway is a monumental feat, and I just have a lot of respect for that shit. So allies, hey,
Hey,
continue to push through, baby.
yes,
And
honey, we need as many allies as
as
possible in this country because shout out
But
to
I
the
think that's the
allies.
beauty, right, of all the protesting is that all the protesting that's been going on
Hmm?
hasn't just been filled with minorities. You know, we've seen white faces too out there pushing the pavement and confronting the government. And if anything, all of the social upheaval, in a way, it has brought who's really together actually together. It's shown who's really down for the unity and who's really down for the community and who really isn't. So it's been a very shocking and difficult drama filled time to live in. But on the back end, it's been interesting to really see people come together and unite and stand up for each other. And to see white people confronting their own privilege. Seeing black, even the black community trying to confront their own privilege of heterosexuality. There's a lot of LGBT allyship and support that's going on. It's a lot of straight people out there who are also fighting for trans rights, fighting for LGBT rights, and that means a lot. It means a lot, and I can understand more as I get older.
How old are you again?
I'm 34 and I'll be 35 on the 15th of next month.
Okay,
I'm a
Scorpio.
Scorpio, just like you, Mr. Scorpio.
Yeah, I
And
remember
I will
now.
be an old hoe in less than a month.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. In gay years, I'm 67.
Oh, well, how old am I? Well, how do you gauge gay years?
Gay years are 3 times your age.
What time?
You age quick in this community. It's like dog years, in the gay community.
Oh, they're trying to say we dogs now. God
No,
damn.
I said
Okay,
it's
I know what
like
you
dog years. And look,
mean.
that is something else that I shun. I do like the age shit. Is just like get out of here. Like,
Oh my God, when you turn 30, like they send you out to the pasture.
yeah, like there are literally profiles. Like there are literally Jack and Tinder and Grinder profiles that be like no 40s, no 30s. Like people, like I just be like, are y'all okay?
Yeah, I've seen the Tinder profiles and I'm like, okay, wow, you're
Heard
really
about, I've heard about them because I can't bring myself to use Jack or Grinder.
well, I don't Tinder is
It's
different. I
nothing
don't do
wrong with
them
it.
others. Huh?
I said it's nothing wrong with those dating sites, but I don't know. I just never could use a dating site for some reason. I
Because
don't
you
know.
had a man all your life.
That's true. I'm
So why the hell you want to?
yeah, like
That's
no,
why.
like literally I've met all of my lovers like in real life. So I'm not used to, like I really haven't had to use an app. Like I've always just met guys in real life, like whether we be at the club or we be at a friend's party or we be at something together where you get to trade numbers and talk. So yeah, I mean, but I'm glad that it's available because it broadens your horizons. I would assume your options.
I mean, but basically turns out the same way. Well, I'm speaking from experience. Turns out the same way as if you meet them in person and then go on a date. It's the same thing. It's like, I guess I'm choosing the wrong people, but it's like when you hit the three week mark, everything changes. I'm like, what is so special about 3 weeks? And you just flip all of a sudden. Like, what happened between week 2 and week 3? to make you just act totally different than you acted from week 1 to week 2. It's just very interesting.
It is
So,
very interesting.
something about that third week. Anyway,
Some of the third week.
something about that third
Reared
week.
this ugly head.
I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. Let's just
Yikes.
end it now. We're not compatible. It's okay to
Right.
say that you're not compatible with somebody. Try to manage their feelings. Well, I'm gonna hurt their feelings. I mean, that's a possibility, but it's not working.
Mhm.
Anyway, we're not gonna talk about dating.
No, this is an open LGBT discussion, but we only do have 10 minutes left on the clock because we've been here for almost 3 hours. Can you believe it?
It has not been 3 hours.
It has been 2 hours and 50 minutes and 20
Oh, y'all have a timeline? Not a timeline, a timer on this?
Yeah, it's a timer on StreamYard. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Two
you
2 hours and 50 minutes. We down upon the third hour.
Okay.
And I think that'd be a perfect. I think that'd be a perfect. That'd be a perfect hour to end on. But we can't always come back. This is LGBT History Month, so I would love to get into the dating topic, dating apps, when to have sex, when not to have, soon to have sex, and we can get into all that. Like we can make
have sex when you want to have sex. You're
Okay,
grown.
let's save it. Let's save it for the other segment, okay? We can get into the other stuff. And maybe I can bring in some other same gender loving men too and talk about our dating.
Like who? Who?
Like, I know lots of I know lots of same gender loving men.
Are they cute? Let me stop. I'm joking.
I would love to bring Bitch TV on. I would love to bring Cats Meow on, who's a content creator as well. I also wouldn't mind bringing on like some of my gentlemen panel members if they want to partake. I mean, I have cousins who are gay. I mean, there's a plethora of, there's a plethora of same gender loving choices now. I'm surrounded by my community.
All right. That's great.
Yeah.
Surrounded.
Yes.
Encamped. Fortified.
Huh?
I said encamped and fortified.
You need to bring your friend on here.
Who?
Your friend. Is he still a roommate?
Yes.
Yeah, him.
I think he's asleep.
No, I ain't saying now, but I'm saying like in the, I mean, I know he's a gay man, he's the same gender loving person.
Maybe. Let's see about that.
Yeah, get him to talk his experience. Hopefully, I want to bring on a trans woman. I have a cousin who's trans, so maybe I can get her to push through on one of the episodes. I want to finish the month out doing a lot of kind of LGBT centered topics in dedication to that. And then when Black History Month rolls around, I want to also do something for Black History Month.
Why the heck you waiting on Black History, bud?
No, I'm not saying I am waiting, but I'm just saying that it's definitely going to be a month that will be used exclusively for that. I'm a very versatile content creator, so I create all types of content in general, but these months.
May I say that it's great to be a versatile content creator. To be very well-rounded because, yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
No, you're right. Like, but these months help me to like really isolate the content. Like, I can really just zone in and be kind of more theme oriented, and I like themes.
Yes.
I like just being able to really, kind of dedicate moments to a particular type of content. So I will use these history months as ways to kind of, just kind of contribute to the culture and give back and speak about the things relative to the month and etc. So I would love to continue on this conversation. Since we only got a few more minutes, like, is there anything that you want to add to tonight's comment as a wrap up? I mean, as tonight's topic as a wrap up?
Tonight's topic spoke about the LGBT community, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
we talked about homophobia. We talked about, a lot of the homophobia and rejection women
Well,
experience and what we can do on a micro level and
the
etc.
takeaway from me was the micro situation, like us starting where we are as people who are different and showing what we want to other people.
Yes.
That was the takeaway. We talked about a lot of things, but that was the thing that stuck with me the most, because sometimes it doesn't seem like there are solutions that are attainable. But if you just start at home and project what you want back, that's a start. So that's what I would like to say. I would also like to say thank you for inviting me to speak about this with you. This is the first time I've done this. It was great fun. And I appreciate it, Davion.
Yes. Hopefully.
Yeah, my Scorpio brother.
Right.
Almost to the day.
Mother. I used to be your long hair brother, but now you are just our Travis A. Scott bald headed brother in Christ.
I will never be bald headed. Let's just correct that. Shout out to the curls sitting on my head.
Shout out to the curls, honey. Okay, push the wig.
You wish.
Honey.
You wish.
Well, hopefully the people loved you. I don't know if you was reading the comments, but people was like, "Oh my god, I love him." So hopefully,
who loves me? Really?
Yes, the kids are loving for you in the comment section. So hopefully, this inspires more of a return to these YouTube streets.
I don't know. I don't have the bug.
Look, just we gonna slow roll it, okay? You just let it in bit by bit by bit. Just let the light in. Just push the curtain back a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. We ain't
I don't
gonna
know if there's anything I would like to speak about. I don't know about that. I don't know.
Well, what you mean? All that's happening in the world, there's no shortage of things to be talking about at this point. Hell,
I'm not a current events YouTuber. That's not what I do.
Oh my god. Maybe what you can start doing. I mean, you also transition from the locks to, the shorter hair. You can talk about your hair.
Well, I already have a video prepared. I just haven't uploaded it. It's why I cut my locks off. That video has been sitting there for like months, but I just haven't uploaded it.
See, even Dr. Chris said, I will be watching your movie, Phantom, Travis. Phantom.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Jeffrey says, does Travis have any social medias that you would like to give out?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at Trav the Wordsmith. Oh God, what did I do? Oh, I thought I deleted you. I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Okay, yeah, put it in the chat. He's gonna put it in the chat, you guys. And I'm also going to, after I get off, I'm going to get him to send me the information, and I'm going to put it in the description box as well.
Yeah, and I will send you the link to my movie as well.
Okay.
If they would like to watch.
Put his Instagram, Trav the Wordsmith. You guys can find him on Instagram if you guys are on Instagram. Hey. And these are open discussions, you guys. So you guys don't have to be shy and stay in the comment section. If you guys see me on and you see that open discussion, it means that you're more than welcome to come. I know that Already Rock tried to come through, but he was having some connection issues. So hopefully, he'll be able to come through on the next live. And I hope that you enjoyed tonight's discussion, Trav. It was a pleasure having you. I know I called you at the very last minute to have this discussion. You definitely came to mind. And I guess it must have been perfect timing because you obliged my crazy ass. So
No problem.
Here
I
we
would say anytime, but you know, it's like pulling teeth.
are. Right.
But
You know,
yeah, it's cute.
I don't mind being your personal dentist and pulling them if I have to.
All right.
Okay. So we will be returning, you guys. You guys will see Travis again. I'm going to try to get him to be a part of the rest of these episodes, okay, dedicated to the LGBT History Month. And we will keep these conversations and dialogues going, okay? I love you guys. You guys can find Travis on Instagram at Trav the Wordsmith, so make sure that you follow him there and make sure that you check back in the description box for his information. And if you guys want some specific topics in the next discussion, you can just also leave them in the comment section of this video as well. Now, since this is a StreamYard video, this video probably won't finish processing probably for like 30 minutes. So you guys might not see it on the channel initially after this ends, but it'll be there. So just keep checking back. And you can leave all your comments and suggestions in the comment section. Anything else you want to say, Trav, before we log off?
No, that was great. I had a good time, and it was nice chatting with your chat people.
Let me tell you, the Conscious Crew audience is one of the most down-to-earth, welcoming, loving, intelligent, strong-minded audiences that you can find. I mean, we are not a shady bunch. Now we can be shady and we can drag the shit out of folk, but in general, you know, we are a very welcoming nation over here, you know.
That's
And
great.
we try to do the hard work, we try to have the hard conversations, and we also try to protect people on this platform. So we try to provide a space of safety, authenticity, even in the chat. You know, we try to allow the trolls and allow people to just, you know, be free to speak, unless it's just, you know, as long as they ain't giving too much. But you know, we try to just, you know, let everybody be, and you know, stand in our principles of fairness and free speech. So yeah, you know, we got a good thing going over here. I love the Conscious Crew.
You should. I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, we love you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much, Classy Queen, for the motherfucking donation. Girl. Thank you to all the donators. Girl. I love you guys. And share the stream out, tell people about, you know, the platform, and we will see you guys later.
Bye.